Chapter 117. The news that William wanted to mass-produce Dragon's Blood warriors spread throughout the City of Dawn within a day. This good news caused a huge commotion among the human and half-elf legions. Most of the elfin legions were excited about this news, but they did not sign up for it. After all, the elves valued their appearance more than their combat power. It was simple. Whether one was strong or not was a matter of the version. Whether one was handsome or not was a matter of life. But the elves only believed that handsome was the most important. The dragon scales of the dragon speakers and dragon followers could be hidden under their skin. Only when the dragon's blood was activated would the dragon scales emerge. But if the dragon followers were unlucky, they could easily grow dragon scales all over their bodies, making them look like monsters. Although William had promised to let every dragon follower have dragon scales, he did not tell them that Moses was an all-round enchanter. This caused most of the elves to be uninterested in becoming dragon followers. William could not be bothered with the elves who valued their appearance too much. He chose young warriors who had 900+ loyalty points. They had low bloodlines, but dared to risk their lives. There were 200 humans and 100 half-elves. There was a key point. They had to have fire attributes. Only then could they digest the dragon's blood to its fullest potential. Why did William not choose those with stronger bloodlines? The key point was that the dragon's blood had a limited effect on humans with high bloodline potential. It was far better to choose NPCs with lower bloodline potential. As long as they succeeded, they could at least advance to advanced, grandmaster, and epic levels. This was why the dragon's blood was so expensive. Moreover, regardless of whether it was the dragon followers or the dragon speakers, when they were in their transformed state, their combat power would increase greatly. They could fight against opponents of a higher level. The 3 dragon speakers at the snow mountain of the EC had not transformed, but they had already displayed their powerful combat power. If not for the sudden appearance of the fire dragon, William would have killed it with his sword. Then they would have seen the true power of the dragon speakers. But where there were strengths, there were weaknesses. After transforming, there would be a period of weakness. At that time, their combat power would be greatly reduced. If the battle was not over, they would be in great danger. Let's not talk about the dragon's blood. The military fortress built by the Iron Nation had completely become the military base of the City of Dawn. The Iron Nation issued a statement of protest. They wanted the City of Dawn to return the military fortress quickly. Otherwise, they would deploy their legions to take it back by force. The City of Dawn protested. They said that Iron Nation had built a military fortress without the approval of the City of Dawn. Iron Nation had no choice but to occupy the military fortress. In short, the two sides could not fight for the time being. After the dragon-slaying battle, the Iron Nation had not only lost his wife, but even his daughter had been ruined by William. In addition, their enemy, the Black Lava Nation, was eyeing them covetously. How would they dare to invade the City of Dawn? William's deployment of the military fortress was also very simple. He named the military fortress Light Fortress and ordered Christian to lead the Fearless Legion to temporarily guard the military fortress. The Legion would be replaced every month. The 60,000 slaves who had exploded during the construction were freed by William. Most of them were sent back to the City of Dawn. At the same time, William recruited soldiers again. He planned to build a new human legion. The instructors were none other than William's 500 elfin guards. All the legions in the second half of the year were trained by William's guards. This time, he also dispatched 100 of his personal guards to the Light Fortress to train the 3,000 new recruits that he had selected. In general, some of the legions in the duchies, kingdoms, and empires of the gods had good military training. Other than a few rare occasions, they had the ability to fight to the death. But compared to the elves, they were often far behind. Why was this so? It was because of the quality of the secret manuals that the warriors practiced, the quality of the armor they wore, the quality of the weapons they used, and even the excellence of the legion commander. As long as these qualities were up to standard, when the legion started fighting, the soldiers would charge forward like a swarm of bees. They would use their various advantages to defeat their enemies. Under such circumstances, if they had good military training, they would be able to unleash more destructive power. But no matter how one compared it to the elves, the military training of the human legions was often much worse than that of the elves. If the elves trained the human legions, they could completely impart the elven legion training methods to the human legions. In addition, the instructors were William's personal guards. It was a good opportunity to publicize William's greatness, glory, justice, and other outstanding qualities. Recently, Odom had used the atmosphere of the dragon-slaying battle to announce the excellent policy of learn from the Lord and be a hero. Not only would the commoners learn the outstanding qualities of the Lord, but they would also learn his noble character. They would not bow down to the strong and would not bully the weak. Odom, good job. William was very satisfied with Odom's way of sucking up to him. It felt good. The Dragon Follower ceremony was held in a central plaza with a small bridge and flowing water. It was filled with fountains and flowers. 300 selected warriors wore small underwear and stood in a neat formation. They looked ahead solemnly. This kind of Dragon Follower ceremony attracted half of the city's civilians. The streets, the houses, and even the roofs were filled with onlookers. It was almost as if there was a table on the roof and a jug of wine. It was the first time that Moses appeared in front of the crowd. Many people knew him, but they only knew that he was a fortune teller. They did not expect him to know magic. Many people were curious about him. Old Band, who was observing in the dark, was also very curious. He did not expect that William did not ask him for help. Instead, he looked for someone else. The indignant Old Band wanted to see what Moses was capable of. Hence, Zeus yawned lazily and pointed his finger forward. A complex and mysterious blue magic value appeared in the sky and pressed down on the 300 warriors. At that moment, the magic formation penetrated their bodies and imprinted itself on the ground. Meanwhile, Moses gently waved his hand, and the 6 magic oak barrels filled with dragon blood were opened. The crimson blood instantly gathered together and soared into the sky like a huge blood dragon. When they saw this scene, the commoners of the city of Dawn were dumbfounded. The huge blood dragon was like a fire dragon. It was more than 10 meters long and had a wingspan of more than 20 meters. It was filled with the majesty of a fire dragon, and it gave people a huge pressure. Moses took out the dragon crystal and threw it into the mouth of the huge blood dragon. Everyone heard a deafening roar. The blood-red dragon opened its golden eyes and slowly lowered its head. Then it pounced on the 300 soldiers. At that moment, the huge dragon disappeared into thin air. Only 300 blood-soaked soldiers were left. When the space archmage Old Band saw this scene, he gulped. He decisively turned around and teleported to the new district. He reported to Annie that William had befriended an enchanter. Chapter 118. Moses used the dragon crystal to perform the dragon follower ritual. It would definitely reduce the pain and torture. In comparison, it would also reduce the danger. The 300 warriors who had been selected could only feel the blood all over their bodies drilling directly into their skin. Their pores, flesh, and even their entire bodies were unable to resist the invasion of the dragon blood. More importantly, the dragon blood could greatly change the genes of a creature. As long as the genes of a normal dragon follower were not completely suppressed, they would have the appearance of a human. Other than transforming, they would not have dragon scales. They would only have a pair of golden eyes that would never be extinguished. But when the dragon blood genes exceeded the genes of the creature, they would become like monsters. Not only would their human genes be suppressed, but their battle energy and magic would also be dissolved by the dragon blood. An outstanding dragon follower should have half of the human genes and half of the dragon blood genes. Fortunately, Moses' magic formation was extraordinary. The dragon crystal floated in the air, releasing a strange red light that shone on the bodies of those warriors. The magic formation also emitted a cooling sensation. Rays of blue light flowed through their feet and into their bodies, greatly reducing their pain. The dragon follower ritual lasted for a long time. It was equivalent to transforming the warrior into a half-human, half-dragon being. It took almost an hour to complete. The 300 warriors could not stand straight anymore. Some fell to the ground, wailing, crawling, and rolling around. But there were some who had strong willpower and sat cross-legged on the ground, using their battle energy to stimulate their potential. William was delighted. There were many such people. After all, he could only check the bloodline potential and loyalty. He could not see their willpower. He could only let the legion leader select the motivated warriors. He would select the best of the best. Even in such a situation, there were still warriors who were forcing themselves to sit cross-legged and cultivate their combat aura, using the dragon blood to stimulate their bloodline. Without a doubt, they were all good seedlings with ambition and goals. They were worth nurturing. Fortunately, they were lucky, even though a small portion of them looked miserable. But Moses' magic array was really effective. An hour later, 300 fresh dragon blood warriors were born. None of them died. They stood up and knelt on one knee in front of William. They shouted, "Thank you, Lord William, for bestowing the dragon blood. Thank you, Lord William, for bestowing a new life. Lord William, glory is unparalleled. Lord William, glory is unparalleled. Sir Lord, your glory is unparalleled." Like a tidal wave, the roars rang out one after another. Tens of thousands of civilians saw the birth of a dragon follower, and all of them roared in excitement. Bathing in dragon blood represented glory. The dragon blood warriors themselves were glory. But these honors were all bestowed upon them by Lord William. William stood on the high platform and slowly pressed his hand down. The continuous cheers finally stopped. He used his battle energy and said in a clear voice, "Glory follows me. My glory is your glory." 9 dragon speakers and the rest are dragon followers. Good, very good. William was overjoyed. He did not expect that Moses was telling the truth. There was a chance of a dragon speaker appearing. Of the 9 dragon speakers, 3 had epic bloodlines, and the rest had grandmaster bloodlines. There were even 2 dragon followers who had epic bloodlines. There were 188 grandmaster bloodlines, and the rest had high-tier bloodlines. One sentence. There were only 300 dragon blood warriors, but they had already become a powerful force. That's great. Lautner nodded his head in ecstasy. He could not help but fantasize. When they're on the battlefield, all 300 of them can transform. No matter what kind of defensive formation the army uses, they will be able to easily tear it apart. I didn't expect Moses to have such a method. Odom was deep in thought, but he still laughed and said, "If the king of Iron Nation hears this news, will he be furious?" William nodded noncommittally. He looked at his trusted subordinates in the conference hall and smiled. The ordinary dragon blood has been used up. Only the blood essence of the heart is left. Who wants to try? The ordinary blood of a legendary intermediate fire dragon was of epic quality. As for the blood in the heart, it was all of legendary quality, which made it even more awesome and amazing. Lautner, Odom, Eric, and the rest had already known about this. But now that they were going to become dragon followers or dragon speakers, they looked at each other. Because the rumors about the dragon blood warriors were very impressive. Some legendary warriors would bathe in dragon blood, and some warriors would become very impressive after bathing in dragon blood. But they were already very arrogant and proud. Now that they had seen dragon followers and dragon speakers for themselves, they could naturally feel that the bloodline power within them was very strong. However, if they were to really compare them, they could only be mentioned in the same breath. There was no choice. Lautner and Odom felt that they were geniuses. Their bloodlines were unique, and they did not want to become the so-called dragon blood warriors. Odom had the royal bloodline of the Lonely Mountain Dwarves. Although he only had the potential of an epic level, he had not had enough nutrition in his early years. In the future, he could become a legendary warrior again. Lautner felt that he was very handsome. Eric and his son believed that after bathing in dragon blood, they would awaken their fire endowment. This would affect their intelligence, and it would be disadvantageous for assassination and hiding. The commander of the Night Legion, Legolas, raised his eyebrows. He did not care about this. If it was a wind dragon, he could consider it. They did not like it, but someone liked it. FIU Roser, the Tauren, was the first to shout. He wanted to become the first Tauren warrior in the legendary continent. Christian rushed back from the Light Fortress. As the commander of the Fearless Legion, he was also interested in bathing in dragon blood to make himself stronger. The commander of the Glory Legion, Julio, who only had Grandmaster bloodline, also had some ideas. The commander of the Moonlight Legion, Albert, was a Moonlight elf. He also had epic bloodline. In particular, his hidden class was a Flame Warrior. He was very interested in becoming a dragon speaker and strengthening his flames. So it's just the four of you? William stroked his chin. He already had legendary bloodline. Bathing in dragon blood would not bring him any benefits. At most, he would have another transformation skill and some attributes. But there was one thing to understand. The fire dragon was of the fire element, while William was of the thunder element. Becoming a dragon speaker would give him another endowment. He would become a dual attribute professional. Dual attributes were very powerful, but it would increase the experience required to level up. After all, with dual attributes, it was inevitable that he would have to learn new skills. If he had too many skills, it would not be a good thing if they were all overlapping skills. William was not interested. He preferred to specialize in the thunder element. If there was a chance, he would rather kill a thunder element giant dragon and make himself stronger. His thunder element would become a deterrent and attack power. All right, I'll confirm the four of you first. As for the rest of the dragon blood, we'll talk about it later. William nodded. The dragon blood could only be consumed by 10 people. Now, there were only 6 people left. He had to think about how to maximize the benefits. In one sentence, the fire dragon's entire body was a treasure. He would not even let go of its anus. Chapter 119. The next day, Moses used the dragon follower's magic ritual again. He used the dragon crystal as the eye of the spell and easily turned the 4 of them into dragon speakers. Julio's bloodline broke through the upper limit, and he became an epic boss. The other 3 weren't so lucky. Legendary bloodlines weren't that easy to obtain, so their bloodline potential didn't increase. Only their attributes and levels had increased significantly. From now on, they also had the ability to transform into humanoid monsters. In general, Julio and Albert's combat power was greatly increased because of the blood essence of the dragon's heart. One of them had low bloodline potential, and the other had fire attribute battle energy. It was not hard to imagine how powerful Albert, who already possessed fire element battle energy, would become if he were to add fire element dragon language magic. As for the other 2, the only benefits they received were the ability to transform and dual attributes. The core members of the City of Dawn gradually discovered the mysteriousness and power of Moses. William did not say anything about it. He did not explain Moses' strength and origin, so people could not figure out what was going on. Moses still did not like to talk to anyone. He slowly broke the curse, stroked the cat, slept, ate, and waited for death. When the others discovered this, they did not dare to investigate. They sighed inexplicably. The Lord was indeed the Lord. He had managed to get close to a well-hidden mage. William rarely came to the underground tunnel of the City of Dawn. He did not like to come here. This was the core location of the blacksmith workshop. The blacksmith workshops on the surface were just a disguise. The dwarven blacksmiths were only novice, intermediate, and advanced. The quality of the weapons they forged was very low. The highest quality was only silver. But this underground blacksmith workshop was built along the Rainbow River. It was a place where high-quality equipment was forged. A tributary of the Rainbow River led underground. There were blacksmiths on both sides. There were many magic lamps hanging in the surroundings, so the underground world was not so dark. In one of the largest blacksmiths, there were dragon scales, dragon skin, and a small amount of dragon blood hanging on the walls. The holy hammer warrior, Old Hank, was holding a hammer that shone with purple light. He was hammering a huge dragon scale. Old Hank, who had epic bloodline, had extraordinary strength. He was also a blacksmith grandmaster, but even he had to spend a lot of effort to polish this dragon scale. When Old Hank saw William walking over, he didn't even pay attention to him. His eyes glowed as he continued to move his hands, as if he was looking forward to turning it into his masterpiece. Odom saw what Old Hank was doing and smiled. The dragon scale in Old Hank's hand is the reverse scale of this fire dragon. These are the dragon scales with the strongest defensive power on Huolong's body. He's responding to your request to create a strong heart-protecting armor that could be attached to any kind of armor. William smiled and nodded. That's right. Don't keep the rest of the dragon scales. Make them into equipment sets for the dragon's blood warriors. I want them to become the unstoppable blade of the City of Dawn. Understood. However, the quality of these dragon scales is too high. Without the craftsmanship of a blacksmith master, there is no way to make any changes to the dragon scales. It will take a long time. Odom was also a blacksmith grandmaster, but he was now the deputy city lord. He was so busy every day that he didn't have the energy to wield his hammer. William nodded. He came to the vicinity of the underground river and looked at the brightly lit blacksmith rooms on both sides. Many high-level blacksmiths were waving their hammers with all their might, creating a part of a silver equipment set. When they finished a part, they would throw it to someone else to create another part. This was an assembly line forging process. It was far more time-saving and labor-saving than creating a set of silver equipment by one person. After all, the City of Dawn had 6 legions with a total of 18,000 soldiers. But now only 9,000 middle-level soldiers had silver equipment. The beginner-level soldiers were temporarily wearing blue equipment. This could not be helped. It was not that beginner-level silver equipment could not be forged, but it was too wasteful of mithril. Even if the City of Dawn had a mithril mine, it could only provide silver equipment for middle-level soldiers. For example, the Guardian Legion, the newly established legions, and the beginner-level professionals of other legions did not have silver equipment. At most, they would be lucky if they had silver weapons. But it had to be mentioned that the soldiers of the Night Legion and Moonlight Legion did not make William sacrifice anything, because the soldiers of these 2 legions were all elves. Each of them had a big family business. They brought their own family's equipment to join the army. The lowest level of equipment they had was silver, and some even had gold, dark gold, and epic equipment. It cannot be helped. All the elves were professionals. Almost every family had a lot of equipment and weapons that had been passed down. When they joined the army, they would often bring some weapons and equipment. This was also a tradition of the elves. But it had to be mentioned. The style of the elves' equipment was very uniform. Most of them were streamlined and engraved with the leaf patterns of the world tree. So there was not much difference in appearance, and it did not affect the overall aesthetic. William sized up the blacksmith workshop that was in full operation. Then he went to the basic construction industry in the city for a stroll. Then he returned home and waited patiently. He did not upgrade his equipment again. The gold equipment set was enough. With his legendary bloodline, he could add too many attributes. But the Sword of Thunder had become an epic weapon. It was commonly known as a big orange weapon. The dark gold weapon was known as a small orange weapon. The gold weapon was known as a gold weapon. Of course, there was also the heart guard that was made from the reverse scale. If there were no accidents, according to the legendary material of the reverse scale, it could become an epic or legendary special equipment. If it was installed on the armor, it could block attacks on the chest. The survival rate would also be greatly increased. The game was about to go into open beta. During this period of time, William wanted to stabilize and develop his strength. He did not want to cause any accidents. The Iron Nation sent 2 elite legions to slay the dragon. There were a total of 6,000 soldiers, but only 1,000 returned home. In addition, the military fortress had been destroyed by William. The equipment, food, and even some heavy crossbows in the warehouse had been seized. The loss was simply too great. Originally, the Iron Nation was gradually suppressing the Black Lava Nation. But not only did they not manage to get the small dragon buff, they almost got wiped out. This allowed the Black Lava Nation to regain their advantage at the border. The City of Dawn suddenly attacked the Iron Nation. Instantly, the Black Lava Nation was overjoyed. The secret trade channel between the 2 nations was opened again, but the slave trade was completely stopped. Even though the slaves in the warehouse had repeatedly warned them, and the great nobles behind them continued to exert their strength, it was of no use. Because the City of Dawn, the Iron Nation, and the Black Lava Nation were in a state of tripartite confrontation. At this moment, No one dared to break this situation. Everyone was waiting for an opportunity, a chance to start a war. Now, William had successfully reached level 57. He was only 13 levels away from the upper limit of the version. His attributes could be said to be insane. In addition, he had eaten dragon meat. His attributes did not increase anymore. The fire dragon meat provided him with attributes: power plus 25, agility plus 18, physical strength plus 33, intelligence plus 10. He opened the attribute panel and felt his mind shake. Not only was he becoming stronger, but he was also becoming more tanky. William Blackleaf. Occupation: Guardian of Dawn race, half-elf, title, beginner-level dragon slayer, bloodline potential, legendary, level 57 basic attributes plus 57%, endowment, handsome, endowment, middle-level life, endowment, middle-level magic, endowment, power of thunder, endowment, fury of thunder, restriction, can only be used once every 24 hours, level 57, experience 23333/163240, age 17, health 1,800 plus 2,500 plus 2,000 plus 2,600, stamina 4,780 plus 1,500 plus 400. The basic attributes were as follows: frowny face power 434 plus 37 plus 26 plus 135, physical strength 171 plus 37 plus 26 plus 50, agility 442 plus 37 plus 26 plus 112, intelligence 146 plus 24 plus 48 plus 10. Special attributes are as follows: charm 163 plus 42, luck 3. It's a pity that my level has increased, but my skill levels have not been maxed out. The difference in experience is too great. But I only have 14,900 health points. If I include the bonus of the legendary bloodline, I have 19,724 health points. After William finished reading the information on the panel, he felt that he was a little abnormal. He was only a few hundred health points away from reaching 20,000. He was only a 17-year-old kid. Chapter 120. William lay on the rocking chair on the balcony. He was like a salted fish. He was restless, and his emotions were complicated. He had been a little out of sorts for the past 2 days. The open beta of the game was about to begin. In 1 year, a small town with only a few thousand people has developed into a huge city. It can even compete with 2 human nations. But the time to decide its fate has finally arrived. William squinted his eyes and slowly stood up. He turned his gaze to the city. The Third Era, March 1st, 2333. It was the 2333rd year since the humans had dominated the continent. At the same time, the thirsty Chinese players had already created their accounts and chosen their race. It was impossible to make their faces, so they could only make their faces 20% uglier or 20% more beautiful. Other than a few exceptions, most of them made their faces more beautiful by 20%. The game was about to begin its open beta. The hundreds of thousands of Chinese players who had been waiting to enter the game felt their vision turn black. When they opened their eyes again, they had new bodies and were standing in a boundless white space. Suddenly, their eyes lit up. A cutscene of entering the game suddenly appeared. It was a promotional image of the game. The main introduction was in the southeast corner of the legendary continent. The first scene was of the dying old king of the Black Lava Nation. He was lying on the bed, breathing his last breath. At this moment, the camera gave a close-up of the faces of the princes. In general, the princes seemed to be very happy that their fathers had died. The players felt a sense of conspiracy. The second scene was not of the Iron Nation in the closed beta. It was an introduction of the illegitimate son of a prostitute. It was about how he had survived, how he had found food in the rubbish, and how he had met his gay friends. The scenes changed very quickly. There was not much information left. But at the end, there was a very interesting scene. It was dark and deep. It was a hellish battlefield. There was a man covered in blood. His face was corroded, and his teeth were exposed. He was charging towards the devil in front of him. It was as if he wanted to fight to the death. In the next moment, the scene changed. The sky was clear, and there was a snowy mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall. The giant dragon was roaring. A war between the humans and the giant dragon clan had begun. A fiery red dragon pounced out of the cave. The man who had been disfigured once again had a peerless appearance. He leaped from the 100-meter-tall hole and slashed at the dragon like a god of thunder. At this time, the cutscene was over. The players were deep in thought. They were about to enter the game, but they didn't expect 3 more oil paintings to appear. The first painting, that was the Palace of Black Lava Dukedom. One of the princes of the Black Lava Dukedom could be seen. He stepped on the corpses of others, step by step, dripping with blood. He successfully sat on the throne, made of white bones, and looked down on everyone. The second painting, it was the throne of steel, stained with blood. The king was giving a speech in front, but behind the throne of steel sat the illegitimate son of the prostitute. He had already become a young man. When he loosened his fist, he saw that there was a thread in his hand, which had been tied tightly around the king's neck. The third painting, it was a handsome young man dressed in blood-stained armor. His long sword, which was flashing with lightning, was stabbed into the ground. His hands were on the hilt of the sword, and his eyes were looking towards the north. Behind him was the city of Dawn, which was glowing in the dark night. William's ambition seemed to have been exposed by the game Mainframe of Gods. At the same time, William looked at the sky from the balcony. A countdown appeared on his personal information panel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ding dong. Official open beta of Gods, activating player forum, version 1. 0 official open beta, King's War at that moment. The entire sky was blooming with dazzling white light. Whether it was the city of Dawn or the other human nations, when they saw the white light above their heads, 5 words appeared in their minds. The arrival of the chosen ones at this moment. Countless people stood up in panic and looked at the descending white light with fear on their faces. But as the white light disappeared, the city was filled with novice players who were wearing simple clothes. The civilians were no longer afraid. Instead, they were filled with curiosity. They had never expected these cute fellows to be the chosen ones. The expressions of some nobles changed from fear to perverted. They realized that these fellows did not seem to be a threat. They should be good candidates for slaves. Chosen ones? What were the chosen ones? In the eyes of some nobles who only cared about benefits, the will of the heavens was nothing. Of course, they did not attack immediately. After all, what if these pretentious chosen ones were very powerful? The sudden open beta of the game had a huge impact on the 2 human nations. But there were very few cases of players oppressing the players, except for some players who chose to stay in the territories of evil nobles, because the real nobles and powerful professionals were wondering what the chosen ones were. Why did the chosen ones descend? Were they fierce? In any case, he would use the policy of not caring about anything else and let the newbie players grow first. As the game opened beta, the forum instantly became lively. A girl named Cute Little Fairy decisively posted a post with a D+ screenshot. She said, "I'm so hot. Those NPCs have been staring at my chest, especially the nobles who are wearing better clothes. Their expressions are even more perverted. If not for the fact that my clothes cannot be removed by external forces, I feel that I'm going to die. Impossible. I reckon it'll be even hotter. Little girl, where are you? I'll go and protect you. In the future, let's play games together. I'll bring you along, bad review. If you touch a female player's chest without their consent, it feels like touching a cactus. Your health points will be forcefully deducted. Same as above. Not only will your health points be forcefully deducted, but after I secretly touched it 100 times, my attributes will temporarily return to 1. The commenter above is amazing. The game has only just started, and you've already touched their chest 100 times? Fortunately, I don't care about losing health points or attributes. I only like the female player's screams in the City of Dawn. A player sized up the City of Dawn in disbelief. The changes were like a rocket. He could not help but curse. Gosh, I'm a closed beta player. Half a year ago, the City of Dawn was not this big, right? My God, listen what the NPCs are saying. The Lord of Dawn has become a dragon slayer? Look, The guard to the City of Dawn are all human and half-elf ladies, those long legs. I want to touch them. A white light flashed. It was already cold. Chapter 121. Just as William had expected, there were about 40,000 to 50,000 players outside the City of Dawn. These new players were queuing up to enter the city or appeared in the city. The other two human nations were the same. There were about 40,000 to 50,000 players. There were only 15 players in the first batch of the open beta. In the following year, the number of Chinese players would reach 300,000, and the number of global players would reach millions. William's display of skills during the game's closed beta had attracted a large group of players. As the natives had received news from the heavens, they were very curious about the Chosen Ones. They observed the players' every move as if they were monkeys. After all, the players were jumpy. Some of them started dancing on the streets. They swayed, kicked, and spun. One of the winged players had broken his wings because he did not manage to take them off. In the end, the player made up his mind and tore off his wings. He killed himself and turned into a ray of white light that disappeared into the sky. He left behind a bag of money, which was snatched up by a large group of players. The NPCs were in awe of the player's suicide. They praised the players for being awesome. The winged player who had broken his wings revived after a while. He danced on the streets again, not caring about the money that he had lost. He seemed to be a tycoon. Players' freedom is the truth. Standing on the streets is the hard truth. William expressed his understanding. But isn't it a little too early to be standing on the streets? At least become professionals and get a set of little orange equipment before standing on the streets. Fortunately, not all the players were wandering. Some impatient fellows were already looking for missions. When the civilians realized that the guards did not stop the Chosen Ones from running around, they were slightly relieved. They continued to observe in secret, because they realized that this group of players had a perverted desire to help. It was as if they would commit suicide if they were not allowed to help. In a short period of time, the civilians could only issue many missions. At the entrance of the mercenary team in the City of Dawn, Changli Jioga and Angry Pig met again. As veteran players of the closed beta, they wanted to confirm if they still belonged to the Dawn mercenary team. The result was obvious. They were still members of the Dawn mercenary team, but because of their levels, they could not take on any missions. They could only regain their previous identities after becoming professionals. Let's level up first. When the time comes, the professional players of the Glory Club will join the Dawn Mercenary Guild. Changli Jiogo once again confirmed the benefits of the mercenary group and left. He planned to look for some missions so that he could level up to level 10 and change his occupation. Angry Piglet's eyes lit up. That's a big move. You're staking everything on one throw. What about the subordinate guilds of your club? It doesn't matter if I tell you. Of course, I have to join. After Changli Jioga finished speaking, he ran away. A total of 40,000 to 50,000 players had gathered in the City of Dawn. They were doing all sorts of simple quests. After all, the City of Dawn's construction missions had never stopped. Hence, the incompetent players could only choose to accept these missions. As for doing hard labor, the players expressed that this was the basic operation. Moving bricks, moving wood, moving wine, all of them were very diligent. This kind of hard-working spirit touched many NPCs. Many people thought that these Chosen Ones were unlucky kids from some poor place. Speaking of which, the NPCs in the City of Dawn are very powerful. An elf player sighed as he moved bricks. Exactly. There are many high-level NPCs on the streets. Oh yes, have you gone to the south of the city? It's full of elves. I used a bunch of insight and found out that they are all bosses with hidden information. There are silver-haired elves and black-haired elves. These elves didn't exist during the game's closed beta. I know that the silver-haired elves are moonlight elves. There's an elven princess on the tallest tree. Someone suddenly leaked the secret. In an instant, many players gathered around and whispered to each other. They seemed to want to link this information to the promotional animation. Meanwhile, the players were also discussing it on the forum, because the players of the City of Dawn had started a war with the players of the human nations. The reason was that the City of Dawn seemed to be a little unusual to a certain extent. The representative of the City of Dawn said, I bought a watch last year. There are very few high-level NPCs in the human cities. Why are you complaining about the City of Dawn? Why are you asking the gods to change the game? Why don't you go to the toilet and kill yourself? Look at the population of the human nations. There is only one city in the City of Dawn. There are more high-level NPCs. Isn't that wrong? The representative of the Iron Nation said, "My charm is exploding. I have already found out that the Iron Nation and the City of Dawn have a grudge. Just wait and see." The representative of the Black Lava Nation said, "I also feel that there are more high-level NPCs in the City of Dawn. We should complain about them. But you should understand after watching the promotional animation. In version 1.0, there are three main characters in the War of the Kings. It is obviously a battle between the three nations. Let's meet on the battlefield. Don't be afraid." An intense war of words started. The players did not have any sense of belonging and resonance with their spawn point. But it did not mean that the people from the novice villages could complain, scold, or even nag. In conclusion, the players of the City of Dawn could scold their own city, but the rest of the people could not. It was the same logic as university students could scold their alma mater, but other students could not. William was watching the war of words on the forum with great interest. He felt that this group of players was worth nurturing, but he could not be too eager. Hence, 3 days after the open beta of the game started, William, the Lord of the City of Dawn, the Dragon Slayer, and the Elfin Prince, officially appeared at the central square. He even made an announcement at the city gate. It was a regional megaphone that gathered all the players. A group of novice players, who were still wearing their novice clothes, saw the megaphone and knew that a big mission was coming. They rushed to the central square in groups. They also saw a handsome elf standing on a high platform waiting for them. When some female players saw William, they could not help but scream, "So handsome, so handsome. This is my husband, this is my husband. Get lost, UB*TCH. Draw your sword. He is my man." A strong man laughed coldly and looked at the city lord with a passionate gaze. When William saw this scene, he was expressionless, but his heart twitched. When he saw that the number of players was almost enough, he said in a clear voice, "Chosen ones, after 3 days of observation, I can see that you are capable, hard-working, and positive talents. In particular, your courage to not fear death has won my recognition. I wonder if you are willing to help me?" At the same time, a mission that William had prepared long ago was announced. Help to build a city. The Lord of the City of Dawn, William Blackleaf, thinks that all of you are poor children who have been abandoned by the heavens. He wants to build a new home for all of you, but he does not have enough manpower. He needs you to build a new city with the NPCs personally. Mission difficulty. C-, first round of mission. Build a small nest of your own. Mission reward. 3,000 experience. Gosh, it's a chain mission. The first round of mission is so awesome. Someone could not help but shout. Gosh, the missions given by the Lord are awesome. I carry bricks, send messages, and dig herbs for a day, but I only get 1,000 experience. I'm only level 3 now. The experience for this round of mission is amazing. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's form a team. Is there anyone who wants to build a new home with me? I can help you unlock various positions. When William saw tens of thousands of players choosing to accept the mission, he finally revealed a gratified smile. What was this kind of mission called? It was called Binding Tactics. To keep the hearts of the players, it was better to give them a small nest first. One had to know that the players recognized having their own home in the game. Moreover, they did not need to spend money to buy it. They could build it themselves and have a greater sense of belonging. Of course, the players definitely did not know how to build houses. But with the help of the NPCs to design the blueprints, they could continue to carry bricks subsequently. William was like a normal NPC. He stood calmly on the high platform in the central square, waiting for batches of players to accept the mission. Chapter 122. William had thought that the players would obediently carry bricks after receiving the mission. But he had underestimated the curiosity of the players. The group of newbies did not care whether he was the city lord or not. They boldly walked up to the platform and even had the urge to touch him. Fortunately, the dignity of the Lord could not be violated. Before William could say anything, The two guards had already pulled out their swords with cold expressions. TSK. I have to say that the Lord's looks are comparable to mine. After observing William, a player could not help but complain. Brother, go home and look in the mirror. If your face is not 20% uglier, your gaming capsule will be filled with the stench of blood for the rest of your life. A few players scolded him and started to admire William's beauty from close distance. As many players were not crazy about leveling up, there were many male and female players in the City of Dawn. They had watched the live broadcasts and videos and realized that the scenery of the City of Dawn was extremely beautiful. Moreover, there were many elves, so they decided to stay here. Of course, the key was William's looks. He had become the signboard of the City of Dawn. Some female players did not dare to get close to William. They walked to the side and took pictures or even videos. Then they did some kissing and hugging poses. When William's guards saw this scene, they could only endure it. As the Lord did not say anything and seemed to be enjoying it, they could not be bothered to do anything. The city lord smiled but did not say anything. From the beginning of the 21st century, some NPCs would have their own fans, and the audience was not small. There was the sword net 3 Shan Jinshin from hundreds of years ago, the ruler of Stormwind City in the world of Warcraft. Ando and Rin, there was the Black Star from the Galaxy game more than 10 years ago. In short, William's goal was to become an idol and main character NPC. He could also take advantage of this opportunity to increase his exposure to the entire forum. After all, he had no choice. As one of the 3 main characters of version 1.0, William was not only the easiest to appear, but he was also the most handsome. Naturally, many people would be interested in him. Gerdanaces and the Crown Prince of the Black Lava Dukedom were secretly observing the players. They did not dare to show themselves. For the entire afternoon, William allowed people to take pictures and videos in the square. He also assigned missions to the players who had just gone online. It wasn't until nightfall that he left with his 2 personal guards. Of course, missions could still be accepted, but they needed to go to the notice at the city gate or the announcement hall. Both of these places were good places to receive quests. Other than that, he could go to the NPCs to receive missions. Of course, he could also get close to William. The sky gradually darkened. The stars were bright, and 2 blue moons hung high in the sky. The moment the sun set, tens of thousands of magic lamps lit up at the same time. The entire city instantly turned into a brightly lit city that never sleeps. Many players had exhausted their stamina from carrying bricks, so they decided to take a break. They looked around happily. They felt that the scenery of the City of Dawn was amazing. The trees on both sides of the street were covered with magic lamps, which shone on the flowers below, creating an extraordinary scene. There were many players taking photos, videos, and live streaming. After all, it was a good choice to take a short break and become a scenery lover. TSK. Look at the players in the King's City of the Human Dukedom. They still have the nerve to take photos and post them on the forum. There isn't even a toilet on the street. The streets are filled with urine and feces. This is only the 3rd day of the open beta, and at least thousands of people have been robbed by NPCs. Some unlucky fellows have been captured by mages to be used as experiment materials. In comparison, the City of Dawn is still better. A 5-man team chatted as they strolled on the street. The others agreed with what they said. There was a lot of information about the 2 dukedoms. There were many commoners, slaves, and legions, but the overall quality was much worse than the City of Dawn. Of course, William is the Prince of the Elves. His words and actions are definitely better than those of the humans. An elven player laughed. The other 4 glanced at him as if he was not a human. One of the girls could not help but say, "Does it feel good to level up with double experience points?" The elven player's mouth twitched. He was only level 5, while the others were level 7. But he still stubbornly said, "It's enough that my attributes are strong. Also, haven't you noticed that I'm even more handsome? Furthermore, the missions in the City of Dawn give much more experience than the missions in other places." That's true, but the elves in the Human Dukedom are in trouble. Sigh. There's a tycoon on the forum who wants to buy gold coins at a high price. He plans to go to the casino 100 times. Let's go take a look. Gosh, let's go. We have to take a look. There were many entertainment activities at night in the City of Dawn, especially after the military fortress was completely occupied. The city gates were no longer closed, and many NPCs would hold bonfire parties outside the city. From time to time, some players would shamelessly go over to have a few drinks. In the end, they receive a notification. The NPC's affinity with you has plummeted, of course. Not only could the new players leave the city, but they could also choose to walk around the city to find hidden missions. Among them was Moses from the fortune-telling shop. The legendary boss, who had been hiding in a tomb, was successfully discovered by the players. Hence, the forum was filled with complaints. The City of Dawn has to be weakened. This is the second legendary boss. Who knows what kind of relationship he has with the Lord of the City of Dawn? The City of Dawn representative said, "Just because you can't eat the grapes, you're complaining." There are many legendary bosses in the City of Dawn. Epic bosses are everywhere, and grandmasters are like dogs. You can be jealous, but you can complain all day, but the officials of the gods don't seem to care about you. Don't be noisy. If you're unhappy, just fight. My Black Lava Nation is not afraid of anyone. The Black Lava Nation representative said. Bystanders said, "Brother, do you see anyone caring about your Black Lava Nation?" The Black Lava Nation representative was speechless. The casino in the City of Dawn was once again filled with players. A tycoon wanted to spin the small wheel 100 times, which was equivalent to 100 gold coins. According to the current market price, this tycoon had spent at least 10,000 gold coins to collect so many gold coins from the poor players. Angry Fatty was also very interested. He started a live broadcast and leisurely ran over. He wanted to see how lucky the other players were. This tycoon's name was very domineering. It was called "What Can You Do Against Me?" He had chosen the Elven race and had reached level 6. According to the difficulty of leveling up in the Elven race, he was a very hard-working person. When "What Can You Do Against Me" saw that there were enough players, he felt even more satisfied. He went to the entrance of the casino and boasted, "Take out your small wheel. I'm going to spin 100 times today." The eyes of the casino attendant lit up. It was rare to see such a fat sheep. He did not stand on ceremony and took out the small wheel. After the dirty money transaction, the attendant stretched out his hand and squinted his eyes, indicating that he could start. Therefore, "What Can You Do Against Me" started spinning wildly as the players shouted wildly. 100 bronze coins, 1 gold coin, 10 silver coins, 10 silver coins, 10 silver coins, 100 bronze coins, beginner close combat blue helmet. 10 silver coins. After spinning 100 times, "What Can You Do Against Me" was left with 13 gold coins. However, he had successfully obtained 1 piece of silver equipment and 5 pieces of blue equipment. However, he could not equip them for the time being. The casino attendant smiled and told him that he could temporarily keep the equipment in the casino. There would definitely be no accidents. Therefore, the small wheel in the casino became popular once again. The players who went to the blacksmith shop discovered that the silver equipment in the blacksmith shop cost at least 200 gold coins. "What Can You Do Against Me" used 100 gold coins to obtain 1 piece of silver equipment and 5 pieces of blue equipment. This was a huge profit in a short period of time. A large group of players started to play with the small wheel. After all, the large will cost 10 gold coins to play once. No one could afford it. Chapter 123. The casino in the City of Dawn was bustling with activity. After the excitement, there was a wave of wailing. Because of this gambling method, thousands of players lost their underwear. Only a small number of players successfully obtained silver weapons, blue weapons, or some equipment and money. Most of the players lost all their money. Tens of players even starved to death. However, some rich players discover a problem. There was an 80% chance of obtaining a silver weapon after 100 consecutive draws. D*MN, I've lost all my gold coins. The ups and downs of life are too much. I can't take it anymore. Brother, you're right. Your life is full of ups and downs. The brother who was being comforted fell into deep thought. His right hand slowly grasped his sword. Gosh, could the small wheel of fortune in the casino be secretly controlled? Some players discussed. I don't think so. Should we report this to the city lord's palace and let the city lord judge? In the end, angry piglets suddenly appeared and laughed. You think too much. The entire city belongs to the Lord. The hotels, taverns, and casinos all belong to the Lord. All this money will go into the Lord's little treasury. Who do you want to be the judge? The large group of players was speechless. It was just gambling. No one forced you, right? You did it willingly. Although it was fun to spend money for a while, it was fun to spend money for a long time, of course. If you did not have the funds to draw 100 consecutive draws, you should not force yourself. If you really wanted to bet on good luck, you might as well look at your own luck. Furthermore, the God's game was already very good. There were no attributes in the shop that could be purchased. But what was interesting was that this lucky draw mode only appeared in the City of Dawn. It did not exist elsewhere. The players in the human nations had a feeling that they were very different from the players in the City of Dawn. It was as if they were playing a different game. The players in the City of Dawn wandered around in the middle of the night. They gambled, climbed the walls of the brothels to peep, and admired the long-legged guards up close. They even had a bonfire dinner outside the city. But what about the players? They'd spent all their money and had to start to find food. They were aimlessly looking for missions. The NPCs were covetously watching them. Every day, evil mages and warlocks captured new players to experiment on. When many new players were first tied up, they naively thought that they had received a hidden mission. They did not resist at all. Instead, they actively cooperated. As a result, the wizards wanted to slice them up and even extract their souls to study the secrets of their immortality. This caused many players, who were in so much pain that they wanted to die, to commit suicide. There were also some nobles who wanted to capture the players as slaves. This kind of behavior made the players even more disgusted with the human nations. Fortunately, such situations usually happened in small places with poor security. Otherwise, a large number of players would have deleted their accounts and started over. Players were born with two skills. One was insight, the other was suicide. The god's mastermind seemed to have predicted that the players would be miserable when they first entered the game, so it prepared a suicidal skill for the players in advance. Within a short period of time, the number of players from the human nations had already broken through the tens of thousands. Fortunately, players below level 10 did not lose EXP when they died. Otherwise, they would have deleted their accounts. However, the fact that he could resurrect himself after committing suicide had piqued the curiosity of many magi. This was because they realized that no matter what they did, they could not stop the Chosen One from committing suicide. Fortunately, the magi were not idiots. Since they could not forcefully research it, they could lure it with benefits. After all, the nature of players was very clear. As long as you gave them experience and money, they would do anything, even sell their bodies. As a result, many players accepted hidden quests, allowing wizards to to study their own bodies so that they could engage in a dirty trade of flesh. The days passed one by one. The players were like little chicks, growing rapidly. With the help of the NPCs, the players almost finished building the houses in no time. Then, one quest after another appeared, and the EXP was just as high. This locked the players in, forcing them to work hard and fight to build a new city. A week after the server opened, the first-rate players had already reached level 10 and could change their professions to beginner professionals. At this time, the players who had difficulty choosing were in a dilemma, because there were too many professions. In particular, they discovered a crucial problem. There was no upper limit to changing professions. Therefore, very few people changed professions immediately. They suspected that there was a conspiracy. According to the god's character, this was definitely not a small trap. However, someone had already started wailing on the forum. It was none other than "What can you do against me?" who had drawn the small wheel of fortune 100 times. He immediately took a screenshot of his experience bar and posted it. The post instantly became popular. This was because the experience required to level up his character, battle energy secret manual, and skill level required 64,000 experience points to level up. The group of onlookers seemed to understand, but there were still some silly players who asked, "How did the rich boss do it? Is it a hidden profession?" "No, I just changed all the Dochi professions once. Boss is rich and willful." "Awesome. What can you do against me?" was speechless. He directly sent the last message. "I'll come back again." I will delete my account and start again. Of course. He was not the only one in such a situation. In addition, many elfin players chose to start again. It was too difficult to level up with double EXP. As for the players who chose 2 combat professions and had double EXP, they also did not want to work too hard. They also deleted their accounts and started again. In short, the exploratory gameplay of the gods had caused many players trouble. But this was the early stage of the game, so it did not matter. William, the city lord, could not guide them. He could only let this group of players try and test the waters. As for Angry Piglet, as an excellent broadcaster and a closed beta player, he immediately came up with a plan to change professions. Cough, big guy, I'm Piglet. Angry Piglet did not appear in the video. Instead, he placed the information of the professions in the video. After all, he was not William. No one liked to see his face. Then he continued, as an old closed beta player of the City of Dawn, I will bring everyone a set of professions in this video. I'm not the only one who provided this plan. Changli Joga from the Glory Club is also providing this plan. First, the Gods game does not limit the number of professions. That means that you can learn all the professions. But there is one thing that everyone is not clear about. If you have a main combat profession and want to choose a second combat profession, the experience to level up will double. This is because the method to level up battle energy manuals and skills is not skill points, but experience points. When the two are added together, it is equivalent to the experience to level up your character. Therefore, it is best not to think of choosing more than 2 combat professions. This will cause you to have double the experience to level up. It will also greatly slow down your leveling speed. If you're an elfin player, it will be even worse. It will directly increase by 4 times. Therefore, my recommendation is very simple. That is, players who can spend money to work hard can choose 2 combat professions. This is because regardless of whether it is the profession change manuals, skills, or equipment, they all have a lot of money. The experience to level up will double, but it is not unbearable. Because I found that the potion shop actually has a double experience pill. It seems to be something like a magic potion. This thing can reduce the leveling time by a lot. As for the normal players, they choose a main combat profession and a lifestyle subprofession. As long as the lifestyle profession is able to work hard, sooner or later, they will be able to create benefits and improve the main profession. Next, I will introduce to everyone the characteristics of some professions at the same time. Angry Piglet also introduced the situation of the NPC's professions in the City of Dawn in detail. It was almost the same. Many NPCs had 2 combat professions. Otherwise, they would have 1 combat profession and 1 lifestyle profession. Even William, the Lord, was like this. When the first batch of players reached level 10, a small-scale battle occurred at the border of the Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation. Chapter 124. In the boundless sea of clouds, William arrived at the peak of the separated sea mountain. He gazed at the boundless sea and took a deep breath. He looked like an immortal who had descended to the mortal world. This isn't the right style. William glanced at his armor and suddenly muttered to himself, "Sir, you can just say what you want to talk about. Why did you come here?" Lautner glanced at the foot of the mountain and gulped. A mountain of 2,000 to 3,000 meters wasn't too high, but with his current physical fitness, he would definitely die if he fell. Why did he think of this? It was because he felt that William was not normal today. What if he pushed him down? Nothing much. I just want to see the sea and the water. William smiled awkwardly. He sat on the top of the mountain and asked, "A small town at the border of the Iron Nation was massacred?" That seems to be the case. The reason is also very complicated. Speak. Lautner touched his newly grown beard, which was a little prickly. He plucked off a strand and grimaced in pain. It said that a sheep went missing from the Black Lava Dukedom's barracks, and it was thought that it was stolen by a hunter from the Iron Dukedom. Hence, the Black Lava Duchy sent out 1,000 soldiers late at night and destroyed a small town. At this moment, the Iron Duchy was protesting. Tisk TSK. The Iron Dukedom has reappeared. William stroked his chin. He had not expected the Iron Dukedom to act. That was right. It was the Iron Nation that had attacked the small town in its territory. They intended to use this as an excuse to attack the Black Lava Dukedom. As for the first prince of the Black Lava Dukedom, he could not explain himself. The blame was firmly pinned on him, and it had already affected his nightlife. He could not get rid of it even if he wanted to. But now, the City of Dawn had a lot of people, money, food, and military strength. It was not something that the border towns in his previous life could compare to. Moreover, the Iron Nation and the City of Dawn had a feud. William could not understand. Was the Iron Nation not afraid that he would take the opportunity to help the Black Lava Nation? Or should he sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, with an experienced hunter following behind? What do you think, my lord? Lautner was well aware of the conflict between the two human nations. The City of Dawn could not sit back and watch as one of the nations became stronger or destroyed the other. This was extremely disadvantageous to the City of Dawn. But William had to admit that the City of Dawn could not send out its army. After all, the City of Dawn was in neutral territory. It was fine for him to attack the Iron Nation near the territory. It was also fine for him to occupy the Iron Fortress. However, taking the initiative to invade a human country was equivalent to declaring war. It was equivalent to breaking away from neutrality and being classified into either darkness or light. It should be noted that all human countries belong to the light faction. As for the war between countries, whether it was a war of annihilation or a war of plunder, as long as it did not result in the mass extinction of the population, the kingdom they were loyal to would not pay too much attention to it, and the brilliant shrine would not interfere too much. But the City of Dawn was in neutral territory. If it dared to intervene in the war between the human nations, it would not be an internal war. It would become a faction war. In short, all human nations had fathers. Neutral lords were all motherless sons of bitches, unless, from now on, William declared his allegiance to a human kingdom. Of course, there were benefits. From now on, he would have the protection of a big boss, and he could send out troops at will. However, the annual taxes, the surrender of slaves, the offering of treasures, and all kinds of pressure came with it. From then on, he went deep into the court and had no choice but to do what he wanted. But if you really think that I have no other way, then you're looking down on me. I have already prepared for it. William narrowed his eyes. He took out a magic transmission scroll and sent a message to the regional messenger of the Mercenary Guild, Roderick. He wanted to meet him at the old place. After a while, Roderick sent a message back. Where's the old place? The conference hall. You helped the Dark Messenger to take sides and let him beat up the Temple Messenger. Roderick was rich, so he replied with 12 points. Far away, in the Mercenary Guild of the Black Lava Kingdom. As the Mercenary Messenger of the Southeast region, Roderick had a lot of power. Because he was the leader of this region, his status was higher than all the city messengers. He sat up from the bed and stretched out his big hand to pat the naked young woman beside him a few times. Pa, pa, pa. The wife of the Mercenary Messenger of the Black Lava Kingdom lay on the bed and twisted her buttocks. She sat up seductively and slowly put on her stockings and skirt. Then she picked up her high heels and jogged away. The corners of Roderick's mouth twitched. He could feel that he had slept with his subordinate's wife again. He definitely had to pay a price. I guess he just wants to be greedy. Roderick understood that if two human nations were to go to war, the mercenaries would be the main force. And the messenger of the Mercenary Guild of the Black Lava Kingdom had dozens of mercenary teams under him. When the time came, as the middleman between the nobles and the mercenaries, he could embezzle a lot of money. After all, the more urgent the war, the more mercenary missions there were, and the more he could embezzle. Of course, this situation could not be hidden from Roderick. So when his subordinate's wife took the initiative to pounce on him, he could not reject her. Dragon Slayer, Lord of the City of Dawn, Blackleaf, Elven Prince. What does William want to do? He can't possibly want to participate in the war between human nations. Could it be? Roderick's eyes widened. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stood up. The little bird was swaying. It seemed to be in a daze and had vomited a lot of blood, but Roderick frowned as he pondered. If William really did this, there was nothing wrong with it. According to the rules of the Mercenary Guild, any mercenary team, as long as they received a mission, could participate in the war between human nations. Sage asterisk T. If you want to convince me, you can't do it without some benefits. Roderick put on his clothes and hurriedly left with a perverted smile. The war between the human nations was only in its early stages. It was not the time for the real war to break out. The players only talked about the war at the border. After all, most of the players had not become professionals, but everyone was different. After all, there would be some players who overdraft their bodies and spent their lives to increase their levels at an extremely fast speed. Even their secret manuals and skills had improved. At this moment, within the borders of the Black Lava Kingdom, more than 10 players from the Prosperous Millennium Club had gathered together. They had all become beginner-level professionals and even had a set of blue equipment. Without a doubt, they were able to do so well because the players from their subordinate guilds had raised funds. The fans took out some silver coins for their idols. When they gathered together, it would definitely save a lot of time for the professional players to level up. They would not have to fight for money. As the leader of the Prosperous Millennium Club, Forever Alone stood at the entrance of the Mercenary Guild and pondered for a long time. He had chosen to be a dual-wielding warrior. He had not chosen a sub-profession yet. According to his plan, if he could not find a hidden sub-profession, he planned to wait until his attributes awakened at level 40 and choose a magic profession that matched it. However, Forever Alone, who was already level 12, was in a difficult position. He was considering whether he should find a random mercenary guild to join or establish his own mercenary guild. Damn, no matter how I think about it, I feel that I am at a disadvantage. Forever Alone suddenly cursed. When the other members saw the leader curse again, they quickly shut their mouths. God knew why their main coach had made them come to the Black Lava Kingdom. Now they could only look at the treatment of the Dawn mercenary team and drool. Forget it. We will establish our own mercenary team first. We will complete more missions and increase our reputation. When the time comes, even if we disband the mercenary team, we can rely on a bigger mercenary team. Forever Alone sighed. He had not come to the human nations, so he could not imagine how bad the NPCs were. When he was still a newbie, he was robbed by NPCs while doing a mission. Now that he had a set of blue equipment, there were still NPCs eyeing him covetously. As a professional player, he was under a lot of pressure. Yes, leader is wise. Bootlicker, damn, who are you scolding? Chapter 125. They're scolding again. TSK. It's quite realistic. It's just a beginner's village. Some NPCs died, and the Iron Nation players are so angry. The players of the City of Dawn loved to watch a commotion. A war of words erupted on the forum, but it was not directed at the benefits of the City of Dawn. The Iron Nation players were scolding the Black Lava people. They said that the Black Lava players were perverts, and that was why they were loyal to the Black Lava Nation. The representative of the Iron Nation said, "Brothers of the Black Lava Nation, it's not too late to change to a beginner's village. If not, the perverted NPCs of the nobles will not let you off." That's right. The Iron Nation is so good. The corrupt nobles are being taken down, and the entire society is becoming more and more free. It feels like a historical moment of freedom. That's right. Isn't the Iron Nation breaking away from the aristocratic system and progressing towards liberalism? It's hard for me to imagine how difficult it is to change from an aristocratic system to liberalism in this magical world. I think that all the players should come to the Iron Nation and work hard for this free system. Look at the NPCs who look exactly like real people. Can you bear to let them be slaves and be persecuted by the nobles? William had nothing to do. When he saw the post "Fight for Freedom," he was speechless. How did the Iron Nation win? The players used freedom as a pretext and moral coercion to trick a large group of players into the arms of the Iron Nation. That was how they completely destroyed the Black Lava Nation. After the Iron Nation won, the players were ecstatic, but they discovered that the Iron Nation had changed the concept. What nobles disappeared, but the nobles had become officials. What slaves disappeared, the slaves of the Iron Nation had disappeared, and the citizens of the Black Lava Nation had become slaves from then on. Tragedies happened one after another. But don't say it. Currently, there were no problems with the Iron Nation. Once moral coercion appeared, the players of the Black Lava Nation were instantly silenced. They could not come up with anything to refute it. William read for a while and closed the forum. An old friend that he had not seen for half a year came to the conference hall. Roderick pushed open the door and entered. When he saw William, he bowed respectfully and patted his chest. "Greetings, Lord of Dawn." "Roderick, long time no see. I miss you." William gestured for him to sit down. The tall and burly Roderick nodded and sat down on a chair. He gulped down a mouthful of wine and smiled. "My lord, you must be joking. The mercenary guild in the city of Dawn is the most idle one. There isn't even a fart job to do. But why are you looking for me?" William raised his eyebrows. The mercenary guild in the city of Dawn did not have much income. What did that have to do with William? It was obvious that no one had established a mercenary group, only the Dawn mercenary team. In any case, it had nothing to do with him bypassing the mercenary guild and directly issuing missions to the Dawn mercenary team. He thought for a while and said, "You know that the Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation have plans to go to war. I'm also the leader of the Dawn mercenary team." Uff. Roderick, who was about to quench his thirst, spat it out. Lord William looked at the wolf fur floor expressionlessly and remained silent. The corners of Roderick's mouth twitched. "My lord, if you have something to say, just say it. I, Roderick, am not a person who beats around the bush. Don't you want to participate in this war?" William nodded. "No problem." Roderick waved his hand. "My lord, if you want to lead the mercenary team to the human nations, I can guarantee that other than possible assassinations, you will not face any large-scale encirclement. Of course, other than when you receive the mission. Can you guarantee this?" William narrowed his eyes. "That's only natural. In any case, I'm still a regional emissary of the Mercenary Association. I still have this little bit of face. It's just 2 human kingdoms. Could it be that they would dare to openly oppose the rules set by the Mercenary Association?" Roderick laughed coldly. The Magic Sanctuary, the Temple of Light, the Mercenary Guild, and the Palace of Darkness were the 4 strongest neutral powers in the legendary continent. The 4 powers opposed and competed with each other. Even their headquarters were located in the center of the legendary continent, and each of them occupied a large area. Even the empires had to respect them, let alone the small nations at the periphery. Roderick did not dare to use the power behind him to provoke the king or the lord, but everyone had to act according to the rules. Otherwise, the Mercenary Guild, which covered the entire legendary continent, would not be easy to deal with. It had been 2,333 years. All the kingdoms, nations, and people who did not follow the rules had paid a terrible price. William smiled and nodded. He extended his hand and gestured for Roderick to continue. Roderick did not stand on ceremony. He said bluntly, "My lord, you are the lord of the City of Dawn. You can lead the mercenary team to accept missions and participate in the war. But no one from your regular legion can participate. Otherwise, if someone finds out, I will not be able to help you. Of course, how can I let my brother share the burden of this matter?" Roderick pondered for 2 seconds. He decided to ignore the fact that William was taking advantage of him. He laughed again. "My lord, you have to understand that I have to clear my connections with the higher-ups. Otherwise, I won't be able to help my brother." William silently looked at Roderick, who had epic bloodline. He was level 65 and had fire attribute battle energy. He had a lot of room for growth. He only died in the 3rd version. Then, why don't I invest a lot? William walked down from the Lord's throne and stood in front of Roderick. The muscular man was obviously uncomfortable. He sniffed. He did not know what benefits the elf in front of him wanted to give him. He could not possibly. "What do you think of the blood essence of the fire dragon's heart?" "What?" Roderick stood up. He widened his eyes and looked at William in disbelief. William continued to speak slowly. "Roderick, not only can I give you the blood essence of the fire dragon's heart, but I can also make you a dragon speaker. What do you think? Are you serious?" Roderick could not help but clench his fists. What was this? It was a pie that fell from the sky and could crush people to death. In the end, he had swallowed it and almost died from overeating. William patted his shoulder and said in a deep voice, Of course it's true. Brother, just tell me if you need anything. It's fine even if you join the regular army in the mercenary team. I will take care of it for you. Roderick's eyes were red, and tears flowed down his cheeks uncontrollably. Brother, good brother. As your brother, I will help you with the magic ceremony. William looked at him with a similar expression. He watched as Roderick's affinity with him soared to 600 plus. After the magic ceremony, the affinity would increase again. In other words, he would have to face the mercenary guild in the future. A large investment in advance was far better than an additional investment in the future. Chapter 126. He did not expect that. After the magic ritual, Roderick became a dragon speaker, and his epic potential became legendary. William watched as Roderick left. Although the relationship between the two of them had reached more than 900 points, he still wanted to curse at Roderick, but he did not say it out loud. In the end, he was still a little reluctant, because that was a favorability, not a loyalty. Legendary. I have worked hard to nurture so many talents. I have created so many dragon speakers and dragon followers, but none of them have lived up to my expectations. Now, I have allowed an outsider to gain so many benefits. The prince looked at Roderick's back and could only smack his lips like a mute person eating a gold thread. William walked to the edge of the cliff, of course. He did not intend to jump off the cliff. He just wanted to be alone. The Lord stroked his chin and pondered. Roderick's potential is so high, so he will definitely grow with the game version. He might not die prematurely. Why go to the mercenary guild? I will have a friend to help me talk to. If the city of Dawn wanted to develop, it would be inevitable to cooperate with these powerful forces in the next few versions. Hence, it was not a bad idea to build a good relationship with them in advance. He had a good relationship with the Temple of Light. He had saved the future legendary Lancelot. Now, with the Mercenary Guild, it would greatly increase the chances of a win-win situation in the future. Anyway, it's better to make more friends. Making enemies everywhere won't make me stronger. William sighed. He planned to carry out some plans and instructions in the next few days. He wanted to go to the Black Lava Dukedom in advance to do something. Of course, he was not going to bring a mercenary team to accept a mission and start a war. This method was tantamount to sending NPC mercenaries to their deaths. Moreover, the war between the two nations was not that serious. Why would he bring a mercenary team over? He planned to bring some experts to explore and understand the situation. When the war between the two nations became more serious, he would bring the mercenary team over to cause trouble. He did not have to worry about not being able to accept the mission. Now that the Black Lava Dukedom was at a disadvantage, they would definitely borrow the mercenary team under William. In particular, William had another purpose. He wanted to recruit members for the mercenary team. Recently, when he browsed the forum, he saw many players who wanted to join the mercenary team. But because they were not strong enough, they could not travel long distances to the City of Dawn. Hence, they became thirsty and had insomnia. Of course, William had to go over and pamper her. Since I've decided to help the Black Lava Dukedom, I definitely can't go to the Iron Dukedom. Not to mention my identity as a mercenary, just the grievances I have with them in the past is a huge grudge. Moreover, Gerdanasses had sent someone to assassinate me. I've never forgotten my goal of revenge. If I really go, I'll definitely face endless pursuit. The prince knew that even if Roderick wanted to protect him in the name of the mercenary union, it would only work in public. But in this magical era, there are too many ways to kill someone without evidence. If William dared to walk into the Iron Nation's capital brazenly, even if he screamed his lungs out, no one would be able to save him. What's more, since these players don't think highly of me, they won't mind me turning my back on them. Now, my routine is to recruit a group, rope in a group, and suppress a group. The Iron Nation's players will undoubtedly be beaten up. Then, I'll go to the Iron Nation and create some trouble. I need to make my stance clear before I can have a good talk with the eldest prince of the Black Lava Nation. William clapped his hands and happily made up his mind. The next day, William was gathering his trusted subordinates for a meeting. Some players who had joined the Dawn mercenary team suddenly exploded. It was because a treasure had appeared on the exchange list. It was the legendary blood essence of the fire dragon's heart. It was impressively high up on the list. Its attractiveness was more exaggerated than any incomplete version of the secret manual. Regardless of whether it was an NPC or a player, as long as they exchanged for it, the mercenary team would provide a free magic ritual to help them bathe in the dragon's blood and become a dragon's blood warrior. William had suddenly thought of this in the middle of the night. He felt that this item would definitely be shocking. It would cause a lot of discussion on the forum. It would once again expose the various benefits of joining the Dawn mercenary team. In short, William believed that when he went to the Black Lava Nation, it would definitely attract many players to join the mercenary team. On the Gods Forum, the players of the human nations were wailing. They did not dare to believe that the benefits of the Dawn mercenary team were so good. They had even taken out the legendary dragon's blood, which was worth 100,000 contribution points. Don't say anything else. Let's work hard. A player posted a screenshot of himself becoming a member of the Dawn mercenary team, silently showing off. Gosh, it's not a problem of working hard. It's just that there's no place to work hard. Recently, there aren't many missions for the mercenary team. The team leader is not generous enough. As the city lord, he gave out the city-building mission and then disappeared. He doesn't care about the mercenary team at all. Brother, he's the city lord, a legendary boss, and one of the main characters of the version. The mercenary team is just a name. It's already very good that he can give us such benefits. Those who could happily chat with him were basically players of the City of Dawn. But the players of other regions were completely envious and jealous. For example, the professional players of the clubs that were born in the human nations almost cursed their coach to death. The legendary blood essence of the fire dragon's heart was a treasure that could only be seen from afar and not touched by ordinary players. But to the professional players, it was a must. It was a treasure that could change the situation of the professional league. After the Glory Club in the City of Dawn discovered this exchange treasure, the captain of the Glory Club, Chu Liuqiu, immediately informed the subordinate guilds and all the professional players that they had to obtain the blood essence of the fire dragon. Even if they had to work hard, they had to accumulate enough contribution points. If they waited for other professional players to join the mercenary team and snatch the blood essence of the fire dragon, then the Glory Club would have to disband on the spot. The contribution points of the Dawn mercenary team could only be obtained by completing missions, but did not say that contribution points could not be traded. After Chu Liuqiu discovered that contribution points could be traded, he naturally had an idea. He wanted to trade contribution points from the players of the subordinate guilds. The subordinate guilds of the Glory Club were called the Glory Guild. Most of the players in the guild were fans of the Glory Club. Although they were fans, they were also players and not employees of the Glory Club. They could voluntarily hand over the contribution points or choose to keep them for their own use. After all, there were many uses for contribution points. Not only could they increase their position in the mercenary team, but they could also exchange for equipment, secret manuals, and so on. Hence, trading was the most convenient method. As for what to trade, it was not renminbi. Most of them were signed photos, posters, figurines, and strange things like undergarments of the professional players. In short, it was impossible for them to spend money. They became professional players to earn money, unless the boss of the club allocated funds. Changli Jioga looked at the exchange list with a burning gaze. As a rookie member of the Glory Club, he had yet to participate in any official competition. Hence, the possibility of him obtaining the blood essence of the fire dragon's heart was very small. No, I have to get it. Changli Jioga involuntarily clenched his fists. His brain was working furiously. He was thinking about how to increase his bargaining chips so that he could go further. Chapter 127. When spring arrived, the City of Dawn started its busy farming. To the players, this was not a big deal. But to William, this was the most important thing. Everything else had to give way to the commoners. He wanted them to sow the land before the spring rain arrived. Therefore, the commoners who owned land went to the Rainbow Lake to rent cows from the Torrens. That was right. FIU Roser's Tauren tribe was very useful. Not only were they responsible for guarding the orcs in the mines, but they were also responsible for raising the cows. The Torrens had complicated feelings when they faced the cows, who were half of their kind. But no matter what, they all looked the same. I have horns on my head and a tail on my back, ahem. One of them walked with 4 hooves, while the other walked with 2 hooves. Therefore, the Torrens took good care of the cows. In addition, William strictly forbade anyone from abusing or killing the cows. This made the Torrens feel slightly relieved. The city of Dawn did not have a lot of farmland. It could only cultivate on the flat land at the edge of the cliff. However, with the addition of the Light Fortress, many commoners began to farm near the Light Fortress. The city of Dawn is located in a subtropical region. There are 2 harvests of food every year. I hope that the weather will be good this year. A player prayed silently, pretending that he had blended in. Brother, this is a magical fantasy world. There are water mages. The praying player suddenly unsheathed his sword. A wild PK had officially begun. The game world had been going on for more than 10 days. Wild PK, small-scale guild wars, and all sorts of killings and looting had happened naturally. After all, this was a game. Before the main storyline mission appeared, the players had to find some fun. Even the city of Dawn, which had good security, could not avoid it. At most, they would roll up their sleeves and fight within the city. But outside the city gates, there were fights, flags planted, and people standing on the streets. They would even fight against each other. William stood on the city wall and looked at the players who did not like to do missions. Suddenly, he thought of something, so he looked for Odom. A few minutes later, Odom ran over with his short legs. When he arrived in front of William, he did not forget to shake his wavy blonde hair. Then he said, "Lord, why are you looking for me? These heaven's chosen ones are too free. They're too energetic. How about building an arena for them?" Odom's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he clapped his hands. Not bad. Ever since these chosen ones descended, there have been many casualties. Although it's all internal strife, it still causes a lot of public security problems. If we really build an arena and let them fight there, it'll be over. It's not just letting them fight. You should know that most of the commoners in the city are very wealthy. They also like to watch a good show. When the time comes, we'll build a bigger arena and charge an entrance fee. That way, those people will be able to watch the fights. Odom pondered for a moment and nodded excitedly. That's right. Why don't we give them a name? For example, a title like God of War. He could also create some rewards to stimulate the chosen ones to fight. By then, he could earn quite a lot just from the entrance fee alone. In this regard, we should emulate the nobles of human nations. Regardless of their age or gender, they all like these hot-blooded things. However, the human country's arenas were too bloody and cruel. But things are different now. They are heaven's chosen ones. They can die as they please. William looked at Odom, pleased. Odom had already learned how to reap the benefits. He was really outstanding. William patted Big Wave's shoulder and said, "I'll leave this matter to you. Build the arena in the new district. Remember, it has to be of a large scale. At the same time, get someone to capture some magical beasts and select some strong orcs from the mines. Give them good weapons, understood?" Odom laughed mischievously. Then, he turned and jogged away. There's another way to earn money. However, I have to study the ranking list carefully. It might be very useful. William scratched his head and pondered. The game gods had a level ranking list, but it did not have a ladder ranking list. The current level of the players was too low. In addition, the players were scattered among the 3 powers. As the Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation were too poor and had been fighting for many years, they could not build an arena. Hence, the ladder ranking list was only officially released in the second version. It was only after the unification of the Iron Nation that it began to appear in the form of an arena. At that time, the players had gathered together and were all within the sphere of influence of the Iron Nation. The Iron Nation had also built a large arena for the chosen ones to fight. It could even be said that under the guidance of the god's mastermind, other than the level ranking list, the other rankings were provided by the NPCs, but I can let him come out in advance. The ladder ranking is a ranking that proves the true strength of a player. Every month, there will be a season. Every season, a new god of war will be chosen. When the time comes, the reward will be a gold weapon or something. This is definitely a good way to attract players. It's also the key to attracting the professional players. William understood what the professional players cared about the most. It was fame. What was the use of the level ranking list? It was to prove who could work harder. In just 10 days, some players had worked hard to level 18. But there was a flaw in this method. The experience points were not used to upgrade the secret manuals or skills. The experience points were used to upgrade the level of the character. For the professional players who were still at level 12 or 13, how could they achieve this? It's time to prove your true strength. William was about to walk down the city wall when a figure suddenly pounced in front of him. Greetings to the city lord, and the team leader. Changli Jioga requests an audience. William saw Changli Jioga kneeling on one knee shamelessly. He was even better at bootlicking than his NPCs. William could not help but laugh. But he coughed lightly and coldly said, "Oh, Changli Jioga, why are you looking for me?" Changli Jioga saw William's indifferent expression and glanced at his affinity points, which only had 3 points. He immediately closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, his tears had formed a string. His eyes were red as he choked with sobs. "My lord, since young, my family has been very poor." William was speechless. "Ever since I became a chosen one, I was fated to become a mercenary under the team leader. I was overjoyed, and I couldn't control myself. But I'm not talented. No matter how motivated I am, I can't become stronger quickly. I can't fight for my lord. I hate myself for being useless. I hate myself for being a fool." Changli Jioga cried as he pounded his chest. His health points had dropped, and his health bar was showing. "As long as my lord gives me a chance to become stronger, I, Changli Jioga, am willing to do anything for you in the future." Changli Jioga stared intently at William with utmost sincerity. It had to be said that the era of virtual reality games had progressed very quickly. The intelligence of the NPCs was getting higher. Many missions did not need to be triggered by the NPCs, but could be requested by the NPCs. Changli Jioga had experienced this before, and he wanted to try again. William frowned. No one knew what he was thinking. After thinking for a full 2 minutes, he slowly said, "It's not impossible to give you a chance. How about this? Help me complete a mission. You have received a single hidden mission, exploration of the Devil's Den. In a valley 50 kilometers southwest of the city of Dawn, there is an abandoned Devil's Denver. The Lord of the City of Dawn wants you to explore and see if there are any new dark creatures. Mission difficulty, unknown. Mission reward, unknown." Changli Jioga was overjoyed and immediately agreed. William watched him leave and heaved a sigh of relief. It had not been easy for him to spend 2 minutes to come up with a mission. Chapter 128. William had given him the Devil's Den mission to lure the crystal out of the Misty Valley. Most of the players had reached level 10, but because there were no small tribes, wild beasts, and low-level magical beasts near the City of Dawn, they could not accept combat missions. They could only carry bricks, dig for herbs, and even mine with the orcs. There was no doubt that this situation was very difficult for the players to accept. They had not changed occupations before level 10, so they could carry bricks. But now that they had become professionals, how could they accept the fact that they had to carry bricks? There was a lot of discussion on the forum. They said that there were very few combat missions in the City of Dawn. The surrounding forest was so safe that it made one's hair stand on end. Some battle maniacs even had the thought of escaping. If not for the fact that many players had entered the grassland and been beaten up by the small fish, some players would have done so long ago. But William wanted to say that he had no choice. He had killed all the threats and leveled up, and if the players wanted to go deeper into the forest, the Dawn Army would not want to go there for the time being. Not only was there a legendary pale orc in the east, but there were also tens of thousands of orcs in his tribe. Further away, there were many tribes in the snowy mountains of the East Sea. Even though the fire dragon was dead, the dragon speakers were still alive. The 3 dragon speakers, along with a group of tribe leaders, joined forces. They seemed to want to do something big. Time passed. William dragged on for another 2 days. Changli Jioga finally returned. He did not dare to tell his teammates about the single hidden mission. No matter how he had received the hidden mission and why he had to complete the mission alone, no matter how he explained, he would be blamed. It cannot be helped. The clubs would definitely plot against each other, especially for newcomers like Changli Jioga, who had not participated in the league tournament. Some veterans would definitely be curious about how he had befriended the city lord. They would be even more curious about how he had received the mission. Why could he not receive the mission? Did he not tell them the correct method? If the others did not know, it would be easy. The mission would be completed, and everyone would be happy. No one would have a nerve to ask him where he had obtained the mission. If he did not complete the mission, he would be the only one who knew. The city lord would not leak the secret, right? So Changli Jyoga prepared well. He even spent $18,000 to buy some depreciated gold coins. With his own savings, he bought a silver weapon and some tools before he dared to go to the destination. In short, success or failure depended on this. He arrived at the location on the map. The devil den had long since disappeared, leaving behind only a shattered valley. Boulders were scattered all over the ground, as if they had been caused by a violent explosion. Changli Jyoga took a deep breath and entered the interior of the valley. Only then did he discover that there were simple tombs everywhere. From time to time, eerie white bones would be exposed. It was extremely terrifying. There won't be any ghosts, right? Changli Jyoga was quite brave, but what were the requirements of virtual games in this era? Really, it was exactly the same as the real thing. There was no difference at all. Otherwise, why would people indulge in 18 forbidden virtual games all day long? As a result, after opening the game capsule every day, even if it was wrapped in a small bag, the smell was enough to stab the eyes. Therefore, Changli Jyoga swallowed his saliva and braced himself to walk more than 10 rounds inside. However, he did not find any problems, nor was he attacked. Then, the hidden mission had actually been completed. It's done? Don't I need to find an undead to practice with? After all, am a professional gamer. Changli Jyoga was dumbfounded. He looked at the silver weapon in his hand. He had wasted his money. He just had to wait a little longer. This was the standard equipment of a professional gamer. In the conference hall, my lord, am back. As Changli Jyoga had a mission, he entered the conference hall after reporting. William nodded and looked at him in astonishment. He did not expect Changli Jyoga to return alive. Or rather, he did not expect Changli Jyoga to complete the mission, because he did not know if there were any dark creatures left in the devil den. Changli Jyoga respectfully knelt on one knee and said, "My lord, the mission has been completed. There are no dark creatures in the valley, only some rotten corpses." Very good. You have the guts to enter the devil den alone. I admire a brave warrior like you. My lord, you are too kind. This is what I should do. Very good. Since the devil den has completely disappeared, I can rest assured. As a brave warrior, I will not mistreat you. Take this as your reward. Continue to work hard in the future. William pondered for a while and took out a thin scroll for Changli Jyoga. Ding dong. You have completed the hidden mission exploration of the devil den. Due to your loyalty and decisiveness, as well as the fact that you risked your life to complete the mission given by William Blackleaf, he has high hopes for you. He hopes that you will become a brave warrior among the chosen ones and the representative of the chosen ones. Reward: Flame Warrior Epic Battle Energy Inheritance. Incomplete. This. Changli Jyoga was speechless. He had obtained the hidden occupation just like that. Although this hidden class inheritance was incomplete, it was still a stroke of luck from the heavens. My luck points are only 3. No matter what, this reward gave Changli Jyoga a higher chance of obtaining the legendary item, Fire Dragon Heart Blood Essence. William looked at the bewildered Changli Jyoga and smiled. You may leave. You chosen ones have the ability to resurrect from the dead. It not bad, but most of you are crafty. I have high hopes for you. T disappoint me. Yes, my lord. Changli Jyoga knelt on one knee again. He seemed to understand that the lord of the city of Dawn did not trust the players, but he wanted to use him to prove that as long as he worked hard, he would receive great benefits. William Blackleaf has a good impression of you, +3. Changli Jyoga lowered his head and slowly retreated. William /S smile gradually disappeared. This was the only time he had obtained such a simple hidden mission. It was like buying a horse with one gold coin. With a professional player like Chongli Jioga helping him, there would definitely be more people around him in the future. It did not matter if he gave the mission or not. The key was to let the players know that if they sucked up to him, they might receive great benefits. Hidden occupation? I have quite a few. William as trusted subordinates, as long as they had epic bloodlines, would have a hidden occupation. It would be easy for him to ask them for secret inheritances. For example, the inheritance of the Flame Warrior belonged to Albert, the deputy commander of the Moonlight Legion. Subsequently, William did not waste any time. He placed the Misty Valley Instance Dungeon Crystal in the mercenary team. Then, he left the City of Dawn with his men. The Dawn mercenary team made an announcement that made the players of the City of Dawn ecstatic. They flocked to the mercenary base. Chapter 129. The opening of the Misty Valley Instance Dungeon had almost caused the mercenary team's encampment to explode. Not long after, the first batch of players had exited the Instance Dungeon. In less than half an hour, they had been teleported out of the Crystal Instance Dungeon. Chu Liuqiu of the Glory Guild looked grim. His other teammates were the same. They did not expect the normal difficulty Instance Dungeon to be so difficult. The current situation is obvious. There are too few high-level players. The Knights and Priests of the Temple of Light don't have sacred light, so they aren't very useful. Also, there are too few people with beginner-level equipment. They don't have enough combat power, so they can't defend against the attacks. They won't be able to pass the Instance Dungeon for now. Chu Liuqiu was a little depressed. He looked at his unwilling teammates and the core players of the Glory Guild. Everyone, train hard and upgrade your skills. At the same time, go to the potion shop to stock up on some tools and potions that can counter the dark creatures. Otherwise, the prices of the potions will increase by a few times. By then, regardless of whether we enter the Instance Dungeon or sell the potions, we will make a fortune. Yes, leader. Boss, we're leaving. Remember to inform us when you enter the Instance Dungeon. The few high-level players of the Glory Guild waved their hands and left helplessly. They had no choice. The leader of the Glory Guild had said that they could not enter the Instance Dungeon. What were they waiting for? They had to quickly go and level up. Moreover, this Instance Dungeon was very draining. It did not even collect money. It only collected experience. If they entered the Instance Dungeon a few more times without any gains, it would be a huge loss. The City of Dawn was the first region to open an Instance Dungeon. Many people were envious of it on the forum, but they did not expect that the Instance Dungeon's difficulty was so high that no one could pass it. Even though everyone was smart enough to choose the lowest difficulty normal Instance Dungeon, they still could not pass it. They were completely trampled on. So at this moment, many people were leveling up and upgrading their equipment. They wanted to be the first to clear the Instance Dungeon. It would be a regional announcement. It was practically an advertisement. In particular, the limit of normal difficulty was 100 people. No guild or club could gather so many people to equip themselves, unless everyone worked together. But there were too many obstacles. They went to the Black Lava Dukedom. This time, William only brought Lautner, Alec, Legolas, and Albert. After crossing the grassland that was filled with danger, the group parted ways at the border. William nodded at the others and headed west. Lautner and the rest watched him leave before saying, "Let's go. We don't have to worry about the Lord. We can go to the major cities of the Black Lava Nation and set up branches of the Dawn mercenary team." The four of them now knew that the Lord was very optimistic about the chosen ones who could grow quickly and resurrect from the dead. He planned to recruit them as a mercenary group. Recently, spies had also sent back news that the Iron Nation was also vigorously recruiting those chosen ones. Only the throne of the Black Lava Dukedom had not been confirmed yet. Instead, it did not care about the chosen ones and gave them a chance. The NPCs are not stupid. As long as they are brave, they will like to make use of the players, the chosen ones who can't die. William was filled with danger. It was impossible to obtain the support of all the players. That was why he worked hard to develop his NPC forces and ensure that he remained strong. From the beginning to the end, the players had different thoughts. They liked to fight and joined different factions to fight. Even though the Iron Nation was very popular in his previous life, there were still many players in the Black Lava Nation. In other words, the players would not die. All they had to do was fight. The sun was setting. William managed to sneak into the city before the gates closed. Rhine City, the largest city in the eastern region of the Iron Nation. It is also the most important checkpoint. He wore a black cloak and did not reveal his face. He gave off an unapproachable aura. The check at the city gates was very simple. There were many fake identities, so there was no need to think about it. However, his appearance was very curious. There were many players in Rhine City. There were about 7,000 to 8,000 of them. A group of players had just returned to the city after killing the small merman. They were strolling into shops along the streets when they discovered the mysterious NPC. Some of them decisively used their insight. Name, legendary, race, level, position level, health points. Gosh, it's a legendary. This is the first time I've seen a legendary boss here. A player swallowed his saliva. He thought that he had not used his insight in vain. He had actually discovered a legendary NPC. Oh, it's really a legendary. Should I go and touch him? Forget it. This guy has an unfriendly gaze. I feel like I'll die if I touch him. I don't want to lose experience points. Some players pouted. They had been bullied by the NPCs for the past few days. Fortunately, the king's decree had been issued, and their treatment had improved. William noticed that some players were looking at him. He glanced at them and did not bother much. He walked straight into the city. Regardless of whether it was an NPC or a player, as long as they changed their clothes and covered their faces, no one would be able to tell their names. It was precisely because of this that many players had chosen the path of being an assassin. Since I'm here to cause trouble, I'll do something fierce first. William took a deep breath and strode towards the city lord's palace. The journey was not short. When many onlookers saw him, they widened their eyes. They were curious as to where this legendary NPC had come from. Hence, they followed behind him, thinking of completing a mission. As the crowd grew, it became a huge parade of onlookers. The patrolling guards in the city hurried over. They were worried that the chosen ones would cause trouble. One of the guards said in a deep voice, "These chosen ones seem to be following the black-robed man. Am I blind? This guy is obviously heading towards the city lord palace. But why are the chosen ones following him?" The level 45 patrol captain frowned. He waved his hand and led his soldiers to block William's path. "Show me your identification." "What did you say?" William slowly leaned forward and asked. "Identification." The patrol captain's gaze was cold. His left hand was already on the hilt of his sword. "Good." Just as he finished speaking, William's right hand suddenly stretched out and pressed on the captain's head. Without giving him a chance to resist, William's body emitted thunder battle energy. Bang! Everyone saw the black-robed man pressing on the captain's head and charging forward like a rhinoceros. It was an indescribable force. The soldiers behind him were knocked off their feet, and their bodies emitted electric currents as they crashed into a shop by the side of the street. The patrol captain was originally very strong, but in front of William, he was like a child. William moved his right hand down, and his steel-like fingers grasped the captain's neck tightly. Then, he threw the captain. Boom! A hole was smashed through the main door of the city lord's palace. William leaped in, and his palm emitted blue light. The soul of the patrol captain, who was already on the verge of death, was suddenly extracted and pressed back into his body. The onlookers were dumbfounded. Next, many players watched the live broadcasts and videos. They saw the patrol captain, who was originally on the brink of death, stand up again. He had recovered more than half of his health points and suddenly attacked his soldiers. The black-robed man was like the Grim Reaper. He walked step by step into the darkness. Chapter 130. The Iron Nation's military forces were all concentrated at the border. They used 3 military fortresses to form a defensive line and gathered the military forces of 9 legions. Among them, Rhine City was right behind the military fortresses. It provided war resources and soldiers to the 3 military fortresses. Rhine City was a large granary at the front line of the border. William wanted to kill the city lord of Rhine City to establish his dominance. This seemed rash. it would be more beneficial to secretly burn the resources. But William's actions were to provoke a war. He did not want to weaken the combat power of the Iron Nation. Weakening the nation's power was not beneficial to him. Now, the Iron Nation was using all sorts of dirty methods to attract the hearts of the players. William had to destroy this. He rarely used soul magic, so he was not afraid of being recognized. Even if he was recognized, what could he do? The Black Lava Nation would still be the scapegoat. Even if the Iron Nation knew that William was the culprit, they could not do anything. You keep thinking about my city of Dawn. I've already sent myself to your doorstep. Let's see how you kill me. William looked at the city lord's personal guards who had surrounded him. He charged forward without looking back. The 30 middle-level personal guards who had just arrived were not pushovers. The level 50 shield bearer at the front roared, "Charge! Kill the assassin and protect the city lord. Protect your grandpa." William glanced at the fool and then at the city lord who was secretly observing from a window. He immediately took out his bow and arrow. His hands instantly condensed soul energy and formed a blue arrow. Then he shot it. The blue arrow streaked across the night sky, silent and traceless like a ghost. "Block it for me." The moment William aimed at the window on the second floor, the shield bearer had already thrown his shield into the air in an attempt to block the arrow. However, something strange happened. The shield clearly had a chance to block the arrow, but the dark blue arrow instantly passed through the shield and hit the city lord's body. How is it possible? The shield bearer was stunned. In the blink of an eye, the assassin in front of him disappeared. "Assassin, assassin, city lord," along with the screams behind them. The personal guards turned their heads. They discovered that the assassin had traveled through space and stabbed his sword at the city lord's chest. The city lord, who had been shot, suddenly raised his head and sneered. A ferocious aura exploded from him, and his flaming battle energy engulfed his entire body. His bloodied right hand grasped the sword of thunder as he charged towards William. Bang! The two iron dolls collided with each other. In addition, the servant, who was hiding in the dark, attacked at the same time. The battle energy shield on William's body instantly broke. Fortunately, the soul shield blocked the attack. However, the huge impact still sent him flying. At this moment, he grabbed the fake city lord's shoulder, and the two of them tumbled out of the window and smashed into the ground. "There's such a thing? You found me a substitute in such a short time. I was wondering how you could be so strong. If I wasn't in a rush, I would have definitely used insight." William licked his lips. He shook his head and quickly got up. He hurriedly kicked the fake city lord. Before the fake city lord could get up, he flew backward like a cannonball and smashed into the door, leaving a human shape. Swoosh! The shield bearer behind him waved his sword, and a sword energy that was several meters long landed on William's head. But the man could only lift one arm. The magic shield was broken, and fresh blood splattered in the air. William ignored the injury on his arm and used the momentum to rush into the house. He kicked the fake city lord's face again, causing the fake city lord to be smashed into the wall. Spiderweb-like cracks extended out. It was hard to imagine how much force William had exerted in his kick. His head would definitely hurt, but a battle was not about exchanging blows and using beautiful moves to compete with each other. It was about taking advantage of the enemy's weakness to kill him. William's fighting style was very decisive and fast. He came in front of the fake city lord, and the sword of thunder and the poisonous short sword slashed out at the same time. The space seemed to be torn apart. The lightning and the green light formed an almost stagnant trajectory. Hence, in a flash, the fake city lord, who was quite strong and could still fight back, had his arms cut off. His head flew into the air, and his eyes opened in confusion. So strong. The level 50 shield bearer shivered. The other personal guards entered the house and saw this scene. They did not dare to believe it, because that was the substitute of the city lord, the third strongest person in Rhine City. What kind of existence is so strong? William did not care about the people behind him. He suddenly punched the wall on the left. Bang! A hole was punched in the wall. Air! A middle-aged man, who was dressed in panic, was grabbed by the neck by the hand that passed through the wall. His eyes were wide open, and his legs were in the air. He could not use any strength. Oh no, save the city lord. The personal guards were really anxious this time. They swarmed forward. They did not even have time to think. How did the assassin know that there was someone in the hidden wall? If the players were here, they would definitely shout, "Scientist!" But it was too late. William exerted strength in his arm, and it instantly became one size bigger. When he suddenly pulled his hand back, the city lord almost died. Not only was his neck broken, but half of his spine was also pulled out, and he threw it at the feet of the personal guards. A city lord who was only level 30. There was no resistance when they killed him. Soul magic is very useful. William had discovered a problem a long time ago. When the Saint Soul magic was upgraded to level 20, when a person's mental fluctuation was too strong, he could detect the location of living creatures within a 10-meter radius. The stronger the mental fluctuation, the more accurate the location. This was not a skill. It was more like a three-dimensional map formed in the mind, like a bat's ultrasound. Obviously, even if the players learned soul magic, they would not be able to master it, unless it was a specific skill. This should be an instinct that only NPCs would have. In other words, only by truly integrating into this world could one enjoy the abilities that belong to the natives. Oh, he finally understood why the ghost arrow could pass through the wall. It was because he had X-ray vision. The city lord died, just like that. The group of personal guards could not imagine who the person in front of them was. Is this a F***king assassin? A ranger? Or a warrior? Someone muttered in his heart. He was unreasonably strong. In the end, the personal guards of the city lord's mansion could not stop William. A level 57 legendary boss was a god of death in version 1. Zero. His legendary bloodline increased his attributes by 57%, which could almost make the enemy despair. William had already charged into the city lord's mansion in an invincible manner. In less than 3 minutes, he killed the city lord. Then, he killed his way out in a very ostentatious manner. In the end, he killed his way to the city wall and escaped under the cover of the night. This kind of vile murder caused quite a stir between the two duchies. The next day, the investigation team sent by the king arrived. What shocked the players the most was that there were 2 legendary bosses in this team. The assassination was going to be a big deal. This was what all the players thought. The 2 of them were Gerda and Augustine. Both of them looked at the chaotic scene in the city lord's mansion and the untouched scene of death. They were silent. Augustine clenched his fists. His gaze was cold. He is indeed very strong. He is an expert of our level. Gerda carefully touched the human-shaped dent on the wall. He shook his head. No, he shouldn't be as strong as you. This person is not a real killer. The Dark Shadow organization has never allowed such stupid assassins to appear. Augustine gritted his teeth as he spoke. That's right. Why don't you think about who he is? Diablo of the Black Lava Nation? Or Enecton? Or no, neither of them. Gerda quickly rejected his own inference. Diablo and Renekton were metal element warriors, while the other was the commander of the Royal Guards. Neither of them would be assigned such a mission. It was even more impossible for other people. Both of them looked at each other. Coupled with the description of the battle scene, they said at the same time, Thunder Element, City of Dawn. Gerda laughed. He's really mischievous. I didn't kill him back then. Instead, he grew up. Now, he dares to provoke me. Interesting. He will probably attack again. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Gerda raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, but you don't have to care about this. Continue leading the execution team to assassinate border officers, scouts, and any other experts. Leave the problem of the nobles in the nation to me. Anyway, the war will start in 2 months. Create a tense atmosphere at the border and let the Black Lava Nation think that we are about to attack. All right, leave William to me. I still remember what happened during the dragon-slaying battle. Augustine still remembered the witch vividly. If he did not take revenge, he would feel disgusted for the rest of his life. Gerda nodded. He suddenly waved his hand and let the others leave. Then, he looked at the golden-haired man in front of him and extended his hand to gently touch Augustine's cheek. Be careful. His ability is not ordinary. Will you leave after tonight? Augustine showed a rare smile. Oh, okay. Chapter 131. The Gods' Forum was bustling with activity again. The main storyline mission was about to appear. Most importantly, the players were finally able to see the legendary NPCs in action. There was a post titled Legendary Boss Massacring the City that was pinned at the top by the players. Meng Meng Meng. She's ferocious. The combat power of the Iron Nation is weak. The assassin activated the warrior's creed and almost massacred the city. That's right. The black-robed legendary boss killed his way from the city gate to the palace of the city lord. He passed through 18 streets and blood flowed like a river. He didn't even blink. Brother, don't start a fight. That assassin snuck into the city and he wore a black robe. Did you see him blink? The Iron Nation players were unhappy. I'm willing. Are you going to bite me? Your Iron Nation is about to be destroyed by the Black Rock Hammer, but you're still like a girl. Attack! The players of the City of Dawn like to stir up trouble. Anyway, the battle would not reach their doorstep. If it did, it would be a cause for celebration. D*MN, are the brothers of Rhine City brave enough to cross the Rhine River with me and fight? No, no, no. The players of the Iron Nation were not fools. Even if they wanted to go, they could not say it on the forum. The players of the Black Lava Nation were blind. They had to do it secretly. The appearance of Gerda Nazis and Augustine calmed the players of the Iron Nation. Since the Iron Nation had at least 2 legendary NPCs, they did not have to worry that such incidents would occur frequently. They only had to train in peace and wait for the main storyline mission to appear. In a non-war situation, there were only 2,000 soldiers stationed in Rhine City, as well as 300 guards. They could not stop William just by relying on their ability to maintain public order. No one had expected such a strong assassin to kill his way into the palace of the city lord and come out again. William came quietly and left arrogantly. He went to the Black Lava Dukedom, Black Lava Nation. William looked at the pitch-black city from afar. It stood on the plains. It did not have much geographical advantage, but it was as dazzling as a black pearl. During the day, the black rocks would shine dazzlingly under the sunlight. At night, they would even emit a faint glow. It was like a luminous stone. However, the importance of the black rock was not in its glow, but in its great defensive power and magic absorption rate. The Black Lava Dukedom had been established for 300 years. The Black Lava King City was the country's last line of defense. It had withstood several wars that almost destroyed the country. Every year, nearly 1,000 mages would constantly reinforce the city with magic, giving it an indestructible defense. Even if the Grand Duchy's cannons were to attack, they would not be able to blast a hole in it in a short period of time. It was also this city that had blocked the Iron Nation's attack for a whole month in the final battle of version 1.0, resulting in countless casualties. And William, they were the losers of the Black Lava Dukedom. Seeing this city again gives me an indescribable feeling. William was in a daze. Then, he shook his head and strode towards the city gate. Dressed in a black robe, he easily attracted the attention of passers-by. After checking his identity, the guards at the city gate let him through. But the players coming in and out did not let him go. It didn't take long for William, who was dressed in a black robe, to be recognized because his attire was too similar to that of the killer in the video. Fortunately, the might of a legendary boss made them not dare to go too close. They just hid in the surroundings and discussed among themselves. William did not conceal himself. He stopped at the entrance of the palace. The 100 royal guards standing at the entrance stared at him. They seemed to have sensed danger. But just as the players were curious about something, William suddenly took off his hood and revealed his handsome face. Gosh, it's so dazzling. My eyes. Is it really the Lord of the City of Dawn? Gosh, has the Lord of the City of Dawn become an assassin? That's right, that's right. It's him. A few of his subordinates have already established a branch of the Dawn mercenary team. I've also joined. Doesn't that mean that I'm his subordinate? That makes sense. I've also joined. Why don't we go and loot a mission? A man said with a perverted smile. William did not give the players a chance to sexually harass him. Otherwise, he might draw his sword. He looked at the royal guards and said, "The captain of the Dawn mercenary team wishes to meet the king." Captain of the Dawn mercenary team? The guards at the entrance were a little confused. Suddenly, they understood and said in surprise, "Lord of the City of Dawn? No, my current identity is the captain of the Dawn mercenary team." William raised his eyebrows. The status of the Lord of the City of Dawn was very noble. It was equal to the human king. Now that he had come to meet the human king alone, it would be a little embarrassing. But the identity of the captain of the mercenary team was not a problem. It even made the king feel a little lazy to deal with him. "Ahem, then wait here for now. There's no need. The king has invited you." A middle-aged man dressed in black armor walked out. He smiled and said, "Commander of the Royal Guards, Renekton, greets the captain of the Dawn mercenary team." "Greetings, Commander Renekton." When the group of royal guards saw this youth, they hurriedly knelt on one knee. Some players could not help but start whispering to each other. This is the king meeting the king. The Lord of the City of Dawn walks by, and there are legendary bosses everywhere. Commander of the Royal Guards, what a strong legendary boss. I've never seen one before. When William saw him, he was slightly stunned. He nodded and said, "Please." The two of them walked into the palace, and the surroundings became quiet. Renekton was a level 65 legendary NPC. He was a wind-type warrior and a wind-type mage. He was very strong. He was a count and had been promoted by the eldest prince in his early years. Now, the eldest prince was only the acting king. The 3,000 royal guards, led by Renekton, were the eldest prince's strongest support. He looked at the Lord of the City of Dawn beside him. He had never thought that the latter would be so young and vigorous. He had also never thought that he would dare to come to the Black Lava Palace alone. William did not size up the palace. He had wandered here countless times in his previous life. He'd even gotten tired of the legendary Sky City. What was there to be surprised about? And this feeling of not seeing anything made Renekton gradually acknowledge a rumor. He thought for a while, as expected of the elfin prince who grew up in the Dark Knight City. But the rumor that he is a half-elf should be true. But looking at the speed of development of the City of Dawn, he should not be excluded. The Blackleaf elfin royal family should have a lot of support for him. Otherwise, he would not be able to support such a huge City of Dawn. The current City of Dawn had long attracted the attention of the two human nations. They were secretly investigating the plans of the Blackleaf elves. But until now, they were still confused and could not find out anything. In less than 10 minutes, the two of them walked into the back garden of the palace. William once again met the future king of the Black Lava Nation, Nedrick Blackrock. Black. It was a noble color in the Black Lava Nation. Nobles below the rank of count could not wear black. Nedrick wore a simple and elegant long black robe. He stood in the pavilion with a sand table in front of him. He pointed at the Rhine city behind the 3 military fortresses and said in a deep voice, "If we want to defeat the Iron Nation, we cannot avoid the 3 military fortresses, the Rhine River, and the most crucial Rhine city. If we take the southern route, we will definitely be cut off. There are too many magical beasts and races on the plains. The northern side is the border of the Grand Duchy. It is a forbidden land for both of us." At this moment, Nedrick smiled and turned his head. "Prince William, how do you think I should fight this battle?" To the west of the Rhine River was the Iron Nation, and to the west was the Black Lava Nation. William pointed at the 2 military fortresses of the Black Lava Nation and the important city at the back. He smiled and said, "Besides the royal guards, there are 20 legions in the Black Lava Nation. The Black Lava Nation has about 16 legions, but you only control 10 legions. Now, almost all of them are at the border. But if you really want to fight, even if the nobles in the nation do not rebel and do not help, it will be very troublesome. Oh, why don't you tell me who gave you the courage to kill the Rhine City Lord and come here?" Nedrick's smile did not change, but his voice was full of authority. "Liang Jingru?" William pondered for 2 seconds. He did not say the name of this powerful historical figure. He was afraid that he would scare the crown prince. He only said in a deep voice, "Dragging out the time will only be more beneficial to the Iron Nation. Wait for the will of freedom to spread throughout the entire Iron Nation." Do you really think that you will have the chance to face the 60,000 soldiers of the Iron Nation, as well as the professionals and chosen ones who have long wanted to overthrow the aristocratic system? Is this the reason why you want to sow discord between the two nations? That's right. Starting the war early is the only chance for the Black Lava Nation to win. If you don't even understand this, why don't you try fighting me? William did not care and smiled. Nedrick narrowed his eyes. How could he not understand the cause and effect? The Iron Nation was currently being held back by some nobles, but he was also being held back by other princes who were fighting for the throne. He had originally wanted to use a peaceful method to solve the problem of the throne. I want to settle my brothers, but the time is too short and the losses are too great. William raised his eyebrows. I will make Marquis Chris give up on the second prince and support you. Really? The crown prince pondered for a while and smiled. That's right. His subordinate, Count Curry, has a good deal with you. But how will you change Chris' mind? In the face of the general trend, he has no choice but to agree. I intend to support you. Doesn't he understand what this means? Nedrick's gaze gradually became serious as he looked at William. He did not expect William to have such a deep infiltration of the Black Lava Nation. After thinking for a full 5 minutes, he said, "Give me half a month's time. I will initiate the war. But what else can you do? I have a way to lead at least 50,000 chosen ones to participate in the war and 3,000 real mercenaries." William raised his eyebrows. The mercenaries under you are good, but the chosen ones are too weak. Nedrick did not trust the chosen ones. He did not approve of these resurrected mutants. In addition, many chosen ones had entered the Iron Nation recently, so he was even more wary. What about Augustine's head as well? Nedrick looked at him deeply. If you really want to kill him, I will let the Legion commander at the front line cooperate with you. Augustine's position was constantly changing, and his growth was extremely fast. He had even led more than 50 super experts to kill Nedrick in the Black Lava Nation. That time, if not for his 500 personal guards risking their lives to protect him, Nedrick would not even have the chance to inherit the throne. Both of them came to an agreement. The main mission had changed. The Black Lava Dukedom would take the initiative to initiate this uncertain battle for power. So what do you want? Nedrick knew that William would not help him for free. This Dawn mercenary team leader's appetite was definitely not small. I will lead everyone in the Dawn mercenary team to participate in the war. If we lose, I won't take a single cent. But if we win, I want 1/3 of the spoils of war. 1/3 of all the spoils of war in the Iron Nation. William smiled. Nedrick's gaze was calm. Without any hesitation, he extended his hand and said in a deep voice, "Deal." "Pa!" The two of them held each other's hands. This matter that could not be verified by words was decided just like that. Chapter 132. Why did William want to go to Rhine City to kill someone? Of course, it was to prove his strength and his determination to go against the Iron Nation. The assassination that everyone knew about was his proof of allegiance. It was the basis for William's cooperation with Nedrick. The Iron Nation had been creating trouble at the border, creating a tense situation. But this was done intentionally. They wanted to delay time more than the Black Lava Nation. Gerdanaces wanted to get rid of the remaining aristocrats. He wanted to rope in the chosen ones to work for him. Delaying time seemed to be beneficial to both parties. But the longer the Iron Nation delayed, the more stable the internal situation would be. The Iron Nation, which had more soldiers, would be stronger. But the Black Lava Nation would give up some losses and take the initiative to attack first. The results would be better. Nedrick definitely knew about the internal situation of the Iron Nation, but he did not have the courage to do so. He wanted to use gentle methods to solve the problem of the throne. Now that William, an outsider, had pointed out the secret, he naturally understood that time was pressing. If he could decisively send out his troops, many unexpected things might happen. For example, would the unwilling aristocrats of the Iron Nation have the courage to rebel? Inside the Black Palace, Nedrick looked at the sand table and smiled. If we really take down the Iron Nation, why does the Lord of the City of Dawn think that I will give him 1/3 of the spoils of war? Renekton said in a low voice, because of the large number of chosen ones and his own identity. Of course, as a neutral lord, he will not ask for land. Do you think that even if 50,000 chosen ones appear on the battlefield at the same time, can they destroy a legion? Renekton said again, no, those chosen ones are just a bunch of loose sand. They are not a match for any army. Even if they can revive after they die, I have observed them. Some of them don't want to fight anymore after dying. Their strength has weakened. This shows that they are very timid. Do you think that Marquis Chris will listen to him? Renekton hesitated and said, no. But in the face of the general situation, Marquis Chris must be completely loyal to you. Nedrick, who was dressed in a black robe, laughed. He laughed happily. A half-elf with a dirty bloodline? Why should I share the spoils of war with him? I have placed the spoils of war on this land. Will he dare to lead his troops to snatch them? Your Majesty is wise. Renekton knelt on one knee. There was only worship in his eyes. William didn't know what Nedrick was thinking, and he didn't care if Nedrick would abide by the agreement. At this time, he had already arrived at the mansion of a count. A young man dressed in a luxurious black robe was serving him tea and pouring wine. William drank a mouthful of fruit wine and smiled. Curry, your count. You'll lose face if your servants see you like this. Curry glanced at the scantily clad female slaves, waved his hand to dismiss them, and smiled indifferently. My respect for sir is like that of a mortal to a god, far from being expressed by pouring tea and wine. I hope Sir Lord can understand. Curry, yes. Curry saw that William's tone was serious. He immediately stood up and came to his side to listen. William played with the wine glass and suddenly said, Do you only want to be a count in this life? Gulp. Curry gulped and said excitedly, I still want to be a marquis. Just a marquis? William sighed in disappointment. He stood up and was about to leave. My lord. Curry suddenly knelt on one knee in front of William, clenched his fists, and said in a low voice, I have 1,000 soldiers under me, and they aren't very strong. I know how strong a person is in order to have the same level of ambition. At this moment, Curry's eyes lit up as he looked at William and continued, But I believe in my lord. If my lord supports me, I can stand higher and see further. I also believe that my lord doesn't just want me to be a marquis. William sat back in his chair and said with a playful expression, Then what do you think I want you to do? My lord wants me to be your dog. If my lord wants me to be a marquis, I will be a marquis. If my lord wants me to be a duke, I will be a duke. But no matter what, I will always be my lord's dog. Curry prostrated on the ground, his eyes filled with the desire for power. If one wasn't a true aristocrat, they would never know the feeling of having power. How awesome it was. That was right. It was awesome. This was a very simple word, but it could clearly express everything. You could imagine the most beautiful woman in your territory, the goddess in other people's eyes. She would climb into your bed in the middle of the night and use all kinds of methods to please you. You could say that a deer is a horse, and all the people with a lower rank than you would have to suck up to you. They would say that you are right and that the deer is a horse. You could do whatever you want. You would be the king of your territory. The prerequisite was that these rights would only be effective in your own territory. Curry wanted to have more power. William also smiled, a smile that was almost the same as Nedrick's. He lifted Curry's chin with the tip of his foot and looked into his eyes, which were full of desire. He chuckled. Remember, as a dog, you have to understand that even if you are the future king, you're still my dog. You're just a dog whose power has been taken away from me. However, it is still a little difficult for you to become a king. But at least you can become the most powerful person under the king. Curry was almost trembling as he prostrated on the ground. He kept kissing William's shoes, as if he was trying to lick all the dust off his shoes. William kicked him away and raised his eyebrows. Tell Marquis Chris that I want to see him tomorrow night in the king's city. I want to see him alone. Understood, I will do it now. Curry crawled backward until he reached the door. He stood up and left, because once he walked out of this door, he would still be a noble that commoners could not reach. Ever since Curry made the first deal with William, he had discovered William's ambition. In the following year, William's ambition was like the city of dawn. It rapidly expanded and became stronger. It was even comparable to the two human nations. Curry understood one thing very well. This half-elf prince not only had the support of the elfin royal family, but he also had the ambition of a human. At least, Curry believed that if he made the right bet, he could really become a marquis who was above tens of thousands of people. He might even have a chance to become the king. Curry also understood that if he did not change, he would reach the end of his count status. If he wanted to climb higher, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. But he had ambition. He had the ambition to climb higher. Power. How fascinating was this? Only when one had power would he be able to taste the wonderful feeling of having power. This was also the key reason why many people in power did not want to give up their power, even if they were about to die of old age. From Master's arrangements, it seems that he wants to start a war. He wants the two nations to go to war so that he can benefit from it. But what does Master intend to do to make both nations fall into his hands? Curry could not understand. He also knew that this was not what he should think. His strength was very average. Hence, he was like a dog, trying to think of ways to deceive Marquis Chris. William watched Curry leave, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. The aristocratic system was not very good, but he liked it very much. He had never intended to overthrow the aristocratic system. Since I have become an NPC, I have to understand one thing. I only have one life. William stood up and narrowed his eyes. If I want to control my own fate, I have to first become a controller of power and authority. He clenched his fists. The power in them could destroy an ordinary wall. He shook his head. It's not enough. I don't have enough power and authority. I don't even have the ability to destroy a city wall. What do I count for in this world? What I want is not that simple. William walked out of the door and looked up at the sky. No one knew how big his ambition was. Perhaps. How high the sky was. How big was his ambition? Perhaps. It was not that simple. Chapter 133. Prompt. You have triggered the mission War of Power. This was the new mission that William had received after his conversation with Nedrick that day. War of Power. After discussing with King Nedrick, you have decided to fight the Iron Nation together and obtain 3% of the spoils of war after victory. Mission Introduction. The King of the Gods world is the representation of desire, power, and strength. You are a weak chosen one. If you cooperate with the king of a human nation, aren't you asking a tiger for its skin? Mission Difficulty S. First Round. The number of members in the Dawn Mercenary team has increased to 50,000. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/50,000. Mission Reward? Remarks. I don't know how you managed to get this mission, but your chances of completing the mission are definitely less than 1%. A friendly reminder, delete your account and start again. William glanced at the unexpected evaluation and ignored it. The game evaluated him according to his level and treated him as a player, not a legendary boss with a faction of his own. But you're so flirtatious. William was too lazy to complain. He left Curry's mansion in the city and walked on the street that was paved with black rocks. There were many people on the street, and there were many shops on both sides of the street. Most of them were players who blocked the entrance of the shops and kept shouting. Superb blue one-handed sword, 230 silver coins, selling it cheaply. A level 10 player who had just changed his occupation raised a beginner blue one-handed sword and shouted. The players who passed by did not even look at him. This was because the better the blue equipment, the higher the attribute requirements. A normal level 10 player would not even be able to lift it. A top-quality one-handed blue weapon was not inferior to a small silver weapon in certain aspects. Small merman bones on sale. The more you buy, the cheaper it is. 100 pieces for 5 silver coins. 1,000 pieces for 60 silver coins. A strong-looking player raised his eyebrows. There's a mission for small merman bones. Give me 3,000 pieces. Okay, 180 silver coins. 30 silver coins cheaper. The seller decisively threw out a huge bag and some bones. That's good. So cheap. William raised his eyebrows. 100 pieces for 5 silver coins. Why did 1,000 pieces become 60 silver coins? He glanced at the exposed chicken bones and could not help but twitch his mouth. He did not dare to say anything. However, he was like a firefly in the night, always so eye-catching. Soon, someone realized that he was a legendary boss. The handsome prince ignored the players. Instead, he pretended to look around as if he wanted to buy something. Many players came up to him to sell, but he just glanced at them and continued to stroll around. Holy sh*T, isn't that the guild leader? What does he want to buy? Who knows? He just took out his stuff and sold it. Legendary tycoons like him are all idiots. What a scam. Players had no qualms about talking to each other, because when they spoke, the mainframe would automatically block them, so the NPCs wouldn't mind. William pretended to be nonchalant. He wandered on the street for a long time and met many members of the Dawn mercenary team. When these players greeted him, William would nod proudly. Not long after, the city lord stood in the busiest commercial area and looked at the players surrounding him. He glanced at them. Most of them were level 12 or 13 professionals. Many of them were close combat, but there were too few magic users. He could hear some players who wanted to form a team saying, "Let's find the city lord first and see if we can get a mission. Later, we'll fight the small merman. But we can't have magic users. They only know how to make fireballs and ice arrows." The group of magic users could only gather together, confused. They were wondering if there was a way out. First, they could only delete their accounts and start from scratch. Second, they could bear with it. Whether they were strong or not depended on the version. If they did not die, they would succeed sooner or later. Third, they could spend money. Once they spent money, they would become stronger. They could get a set of gold equipment and a big orange weapon. Then, they would be strong in any version. Fourth, someone had already thought of a new idea. They could focus on magic users and support them in close combat. They could walk the path of Gandalf. But William really wanted to tell them that when God closed a door for you, he would often close the window as well, of course. This was only for the unlucky and poor. While William was thinking about how to issue missions to get more benefits, a figure suddenly blocked his line of sight. It was a female player. She had big breasts, long legs, and a perky butt. Most importantly, she was pretty. She was an elf. She moved closer and said coquettishly, "Leader, I'm Meng Meng under your command. Do you still remember me? I'm a member that you personally accepted. Leader, do you have any missions for me to do?" William used his insight. Her name was Meng Meng Little Fairy. He had not seen her in his previous life, but why did this name sound familiar? He frowned slightly, as if he was thinking about something. After a while, he said, "Oh, I personally accepted you into the mercenary team." Yes. Of course. Leader, you must be too busy and have forgotten about me. But if you have any missions, you can tell me. I'll definitely do it with my life." The Meng Meng Little Fairy hurriedly nodded, like a chick eating food. She did not expect the leader to really talk to her. She was just short of hugging William's arm and shaking it. Fortunately, William had never been a boss who was obsessed with women. He glanced at the 36D and said in a deep voice, "I have a mission for you. Now that the war between the human nations is imminent, the Dawn mercenary team can't miss this opportunity. We must strive to expand our team and form an influence before the two nations go to war. Since you're a mercenary under my command, I hope that you can pull more professionals into the mercenary team. Ding dong. You have received the mission, pull people into the team. Join the Dawn mercenary team. You can call your friends, companions, and NPCs to join the Dawn mercenary team. Mission introduction. Every time you invite a professional, you will receive 5 contribution points. The person with the most appeal will receive a gold weapon of the same level. Mission time limit. 15 days. Mission difficulty. None. Mission reward. Contribution points. Mission reward. Experience. The Meng Meng Little Fairy's eyes widened. She did not expect such a thing to happen. She cutely covered her small mouth, turned her head, and skipped away. Who knew how many players would be fooled by her trembling appearance? The players saw that someone had received a mission. Naturally, they all surrounded him. However, William only paid attention to the members of the mercenary team. This made some players curse him. However, as the rewards and details of the mission were spread, the people in the crowd started to panic. The benefits and rewards of the mission were widely spread in the Black Lava Nation. William stood on the street for a few hours. He gave out some missions and gained some popularity. Then, he left decisively. At the same time, He used a transmission scroll to inform Lautner and the rest to give out this mission at the mercenary station. It was best to give out the mission as soon as possible and recruit the little sheep into the mercenary team in a short period of time. Then, he could harvest them one by one. William raised his eyebrows. He took out the transmission scroll and glanced at it. He muttered in surprise, "Marquis Chris is here? That's simple. I just have to control him. I don't have to wait another day." As he spoke, William glanced at his soul control skill. There was still an empty slot left for Marquis Chris. Chapter 134. The next morning, Curry walked out of his room, exhausted. He leaned against the door and panted heavily. He seemed to have experienced an unforgettable night. Then, a second figure appeared. William slowly walked to the door while leaning against the wall. And the most frightening thing was there were not only two people in the room. Marquis Chris also walked out of the room with bloodshot eyes. Marquis Chris' personal guards were worried that something had gone wrong during the long conversation. What if the Marquis was in danger? But when they saw the scene, they thought, gosh. The captain of the personal guards glanced at William, whose legs were the weakest. He also glanced at Count Curry, who was drooling. The captain could only swallow his saliva and quickly supported the Marquis. He did not dare to make a sound. William watched Marquis Chris leave. Then he turned his head and said, "Curry, cooperate with Marquis Chris in the future. Do you understand?" "Yes, yes. I will remember your words." Curry couldn't help but shiver. He had been scared silly the day before. He had seen William use terrifying magic to extract Chris' soul again and again, and then put it back in. The soul entered and exited his body. The endless pain had caused Chris to lose control of his bowels. The torture was unimaginable. More importantly, even though his master had clearly controlled Chris, he still continued to torture his soul. For the entire night, Chris kept howling until he couldn't make a sound anymore. As for why the personal guards did not hear it, it was because William had used a soundproof magic scroll. He is simply a devil, and a pervert. Are the half-elf bloodlines so evil? No wonder the pure-blooded elves do not accept half-elves. Curry looked at William's departing figure. He only felt fear in his heart. He did not dare to disobey William. It was funny. Marquis Chris came to the city to give the second prince confidence, but when he met William, the Saint Soul Mage, he betrayed the second prince overnight. What was Marquis Chris doing now? Of course, he was going to find the second prince to discuss the secret. After William left the city, he found a big tree and slept. Then, he went to the border of the Black Lava Nation in high spirits. It's good to have a data template. As long as I'm not missing an arm or a leg, I can recover from any injury quickly. It's just that a night of soul control is too exhausting. William rubbed his aching head. Ever since he found the psychological shadow control method, he never thought of using it once a day to completely control the enemy's soul after a long period of time. In short, Marquis Chris's mind was tortured to the point of collapse, and the soul imprint was a success. But there seems to be a problem with this method. If the soul of the person being controlled is too strong and their willpower is indomitable, it is very likely that they will not be branded with a soul brand, even if they are tortured to death, even if they are tortured until they become idiots. Fortunately, Marquis Chris isn't that strong-willed. William stroked his chin. One was to boil the frog in cold water, while the other was to use force. It was definitely easier and more convenient to boil the frog in cold water. The only problem was that it was too time-consuming. But what William lacked now was time. He walked on the road of the Black Lava Dukedom. There were not many players around. He could only see some commoners plowing the fields. There were no accidents along the way. When he arrived at Black Lava City, he noticed that there were many players and patrolling guards gathered around the city. He raised his eyebrows and walked over in big strides. It's the 13th one. This level 45 patrol leader was killed instantly. The assassins of the Iron Dukedom are too ruthless. It's not that simple. I feel that the Iron Dukedom is about to attack, a player said confidently. The Lord of the City of Dawn is here. Someone suddenly pointed at William. Many players turned to look at him. Now, the players understood some things. The City of Dawn was considered a neutral territory and could not take the initiative to attack the human nations. Lord William was not an honest person, so he participated in the war in the name of a mercenary team. But what benefits could he obtain? The players did not dare to think about it. But the players of the Black Lava Dukedom had found their backbone. The king of the Black Lava Dukedom was not interested in them, but they could join the Dawn mercenary team and participate in the war. Although the players could form their own teams, the big guilds and clubs were not united. It would be a problem to choose a commander. Now that the legendary boss William had suddenly appeared, it could only be said that he had appeared at the right time. Meanwhile, a tall and muscular man with a cold expression walked out of the city. He glanced at the players who were in the way and waved his hand. "Get out of my way. Ayaya, why are you so fierce?" The legendary boss did not say anything. "You're just an epic. That's right. I'm standing here. Kill me." Someone was unparalleled. Bang! A punch. The player was sent flying tens of meters away. When he was about to land, he transformed into white light and disappeared. The iron-headed guy was dead. The player beside the iron-headed guy decisively took a step back and gave him a thumbs up. "I'm convinced. Let's talk things out. Don't attack first." Hence, the players either chose to leave to do their missions or gather behind William. On the Gods Forum, the players discovered a problem. The Lord of the City of Dawn did not seem to attack the players. His attitude towards the players was also very good. "Dawn Commander, welcome. I've been waiting for you for a long time," the tall man said in a deep voice. His gaze was solemn. He was the Legion commander of this important city. He was also a count, but William preferred to call him by his nickname, Violent Dragon. Although William was very familiar with this guy, he still used his insight on him. Violent Dragon level 65 bloodline potential, epic endowment, iron skin. Increases defense by 20%. Any physical attack will be reduced by 130 points. Endowment. He's only level 65, but he has 25,000 health points. No wonder he's the most reckless muscle man in the novice village. William nodded in admiration. There were only 3 legendary bosses in the Black Lava Nation. There were 4 in the Iron Nation. But this guy called Violent Dragon was far more useful on the battlefield than the other legendary bosses. It cannot be helped. The iron skin was too strong. The 20% increase in defense was already very powerful. Furthermore, he had the special effect of reducing 130 points of damage. 130 points of damage seemed useless, but this was the novice village. Most of the enemies were beginner-level and middle-level professionals. Normal professionals had no advantage against an epic Violent Dragon. Now that he had the special effect of reducing 130 points of damage, even the battle energy shield could not be broken. He looked at the corpse on the ground. He could only say that the execution team of the Iron Nation was too arrogant. They dared to assassinate someone at the city gate. They did not give the Black Lava Nation any face. "Legion Commander Violent Dragon, it's nice to meet you." William smiled and extended his hand. Violent Dragon raised his eyebrows. He extended his huge, steel-boned hand and grabbed the slender hand. Crack! The sound was ear-piercing, crisp, and penetrating. Many players inhaled a cold breath. What they were worried about had happened. But Violent Dragon's health bar lit up. Chapter 135. Violent Dragon was 2 meters tall and as strong as a black bear. He was able to become a Legion commander. This meant that his brain was not just made up of muscles. He also had a brain that was filled with water. He said in a low voice, "The Iron Nation conducted a total of 13 assassinations, and all of them were successful. They went around 2 military fortresses and killed 33 of our officers and 246 soldiers. They even discovered one of our supply lines. If not for the large number of soldiers following us and my personal guards nearby, our losses would have been even greater. The Iron Nation's assassination targets are all middle-level officers. Their motive is self-evident. They want to deplete the basic management personnel of the Legion, thereby affecting the morale of the Legion. Based on the movements of their legions and the number of times they have been supplied, it is clear that they are about to attack." After he and William entered a room, he did not request to shake hands again. He pretended to forget about the previous display of strength and directly introduced the recent assassinations. William glanced at his trembling right hand and looked at the markings on the map. He nodded and said, "The scouts, the patrol team, and the supply team are all assassination targets. Have you ever thought of setting up an ambush?" Violent Dragon gritted his teeth and said, "We have, but it was ineffective. If we want to ambush Augustine's execution team, we have to have a small number of people. We have to be strong and unfamiliar with the members. If not, based on their cautiousness, they will definitely guess that it is a trap." He pointed at the map. With such an agile and powerful execution team, the connection between the city and the two military fortresses has been cut off. Does the commander of the Dawn Army have any plans? William stroked his chin and pondered. He had heard about the powerful execution team in his previous life, but he did not want to fight them head-on. He was afraid that they would be too much of a bully, so he had not interacted with them. But according to the information on the forum, the average level of the execution team was 50+. Their lowest bloodline power was at least at the Grandmaster level. It would not be easy for them to be surrounded. Most countries had similar execution teams, elite teams, and trump teams. They were usually in charge of the most important missions. Ordinary people were not worthy of them. If they wanted to kill someone, they would kill the most important people. They were violent, perverted, and crazy killers that could not be stopped. And this was the boss team. It was similar to how William had selected the elites of various legions to assist him in slaying the dragon. It was the same for the 300 dragons, blood warriors. However, the execution team, led by the legendary Augustine, was too strong. According to the internal strife in the Black Lava Dukedom, there was no way to send so many experts to fight against them. After all, experts did not come from nowhere. The execution teams of these duchies were usually formed from the various armies. "But I know where you are hiding." William pushed away the astonished Violent Dragon and placed 3 small flags on the sand table. Violent Dragon took a closer look and immediately understood William's intention. He muttered, "The ruined Devil's Den, east of the Rhine River crossing, the last location. Are you serious? It's up to you whether you believe me or not. I advise you not to act rashly. I know these 3 locations, but I don't know where they are hiding." William raised his eyebrows. The last location was under the city. No one knew that there was an underground tunnel under the city that connected to a place 10 miles away. "I won't act rashly and alert the enemy. But it's obvious that this tunnel was not dug recently. It was dug a long time ago in preparation for an emergency. It seems like the Iron Dukedom has been playing this game for a long time." Violent Dragon was shocked. Ever since the Black Lava Dukedom and the Iron Dukedom were established, they had been at odds with each other. They had started plundering wars, and even wars of conquest. In the history of the Black Lava Dukedom, there were a total of 3 times when the country was in danger of being destroyed. Under those circumstances, they had no choice but to abandon their border cities and rely on the Black Lava Royal City to resist the attacks. If the tunnel had been dug at that time, it would be understandable. After all, the 3 empires had once said that the conquest wars of small human nations were not allowed to last more than a year. However, the Iron Dukedom already had a plan. They made a big move and seemed to want to conquer the Black Lava Dukedom within a year. William admired the rules set by the 3 human empires. The reason for setting this rule was very simple. They were afraid that there would be too many civilians and human professionals. This was because the wise men of the empire were very smart. They knew that the desires of humans were almost limitless, and that power were what every king wanted. If there were continuous wars between small nations, the foundation of the humans would be greatly damaged. Then, they would definitely not be able to stabilize the legendary continent. Perhaps they would be like the elves in the past and retreat from the prosperous areas of the legendary continent. So, ever since this rule was set, human nations could not easily start wars. Because they could not destroy a nation within a year, other than what they had seized, they could only retreat 1,000 miles and return the land and cities. But the weak nations were all clever. Usually, before the war started, they would move away the civilians, property, cattle, and sheep at the border cities. They would not even leave a single hair behind. In other words, if they could not destroy a nation, they would not be able to obtain the greatest benefits. Instead, they would have to spend a lot of money, resources, and manpower. Violent Dragon had a headache. It was inevitable that there would be some spies in the city. There were no spies in the military fortress, but there would definitely be people guarding it. If the Black Lava Dukedom sent out a large number of soldiers, the execution team would definitely know. So, it was undoubtedly impossible to encircle 3 hiding places at the same time. If you want to destroy the execution team, there's only one possibility. At this moment, Violent Dragon looked deeply at William. The corners of William's mouth twitched. He hurriedly waved his hand. If you want me to be the bait, sure. Tell me the benefits first. You have clearly talked to the king and agreed to get rid of Augustine. Violent Dragon was a little angry. He raised his fist again, but under William's gaze, he slowly lowered his fist. William had a nonchalant expression as he said, "That's a different matter. I talked to him about the final success or failure in the spoils of war. Now, if you wanted to be the bait to get rid of Augustine, there will definitely be benefits." The corners of Violent Dragon's mouth twitched. The Duke had really told him that William was a half-elf and was very greedy and cunning. So he did not intend to continue delaying and directly said, "Then, Lord of Dawn, please change into our armor and lead the patrol team to be the bait. As for the benefits, I will reopen the slave trade. What do you think?" At this moment, Violent Dragon smiled. He felt that he had definitely grasped the weakness of the Lord of Dawn. "No." William decisively shook his head. He laughed. "I'm just a small city. Why do I need so many people? Then what do you want?" Violent Dragon raised his eyebrows. Wasn't William the largest slave buyer in the southeast corner? William rubbed his fingers. "I'm the leader of the mercenary team. In a few days, the war will start. Shouldn't I obtain some benefits for my subordinates in advance? You can contact your king." Violent Dragon looked at William's despicable expression and could not help but want to beat him up. According to logic, this kind of matter was not up to him. But William wanted to use this request to disgust Violent Dragon. He did not negotiate with the king face to face. He wanted to make things difficult for them, especially since he knew that Violent Dragon could not escape for too long. After bargaining, they decided on the price of the Dawn mercenary team during the war. Each person would get 10 silver coins a day, excluding experience. Not much, not much. I'll take another 2 silver coins. With 50,000 people, I can earn, how much tax do I have? William rubbed his fingers and happily went to be the bait. Chapter 136. As a mature, legendary boss, William would never be ordered around by others. For example, he would definitely not wear his black lava equipment and pretend to be a patrolling guard. This method of bait was too low level. When William arrived at the city gate, thousands of players who had been waiting there immediately surrounded him. It was not easy to encounter a legendary boss, and it was even harder to find a legendary boss who liked to give out missions. Especially an NPC with such good looks, it was worth it for the ladies to form groups and be his protectors. "Wah, my prince has become more handsome. What do you want?" I also bang. A fireball suddenly exploded. Ever since they heard that the leader of the City of Dawn had arrived, all the players who belonged to this city had rushed over. The group of players was very lively. Often, a small quarrel would lead to many fights. It was very coincidental. The professional players of Prosperous Millennium had just returned from torturing the goblins and wanted to join in the fun. Forever Alone looked at William with a burning gaze. They were both rangers, but they had similar skills. They were both proficient in both sword and archery. But there was a big difference when the professional players approached. The players would subconsciously make way for them. William happened to see the names of more than 10 famous people from his previous life. But it's just as well. Since they're all going to die, it's better to find a few professional players with some skills to die. William silently pondered. It would be very dangerous to face the attack of the execution team. Although he was not sure if he could encounter the entire execution team, he could not let his guard down. The reason why he wanted the players to accompany him was that as long as the rewards were good enough, they could continuously revive. They were not like the low-level NPCs who died in one wave. There were many ways for the players to revive. There were 2 most common methods. One was at the revival point, and the other was through soul revival. The dead body would revive on the spot and recover 70% of its original state. More importantly, the players who have not reached level 30 are not restricted from reviving. Now, they only have the death penalty. William looked at the group of players who kept probing him and asking him questions. There were also some shameless people who dared to say that they wanted hidden occupations and high-level equipment. He could only reply with 9 words. Don't have money, don't have equipment, don't have occupations. Hidden occupations were difficult, but it was not an exaggeration. NPCs had intelligence. He also loved one thing, money. Many players could not complete the NPC's quests, but they could use money to increase their favorability or even kill the NPC to the point where they could use it to obtain a hidden profession. Friendly reminder, that's what tycoons do. That's because NPCs with hidden professions charge very high prices. I didn't expect there to be mercenaries under my command in this city. I need to choose some warriors to accompany me on a mission. Who's willing? William asked, raising his eyebrows. In an instant, all the Dawn team players in front of him received a prompt asking if they were willing. Everyone's hands weren't slow. They understood that they had triggered a random hidden quest and immediately clicked agree. But it was useless. William chose 30 level 14 players, including 5 professional players. My God, my luck is through the roof. I was actually chosen. What kind of good quest is this? Me too. Is it because I'm so strong that the legendary boss will choose me? TSK, this NPC must be giving us face. Could it be that we're the closest to him, so he chose all 5 of us? A shield warrior asked. Forever Alone was confused. He shook his head to show that he could not understand. Ding dong. 30 players received the quest at the same time. Bait. You will wear the armor of the Black Lava Patrol team and act as bait to lure out the Iron Nation's execution team. Mission introduction. What is bait? Just go to hell. Difficulty. C. Reward. 3,000. Experience. Reward. 10 silver coins. Silver coins. Oh my God. The reward is unlimited. As expected of a legendary boss. Someone read the mission information and laughed so hard that he couldn't close his legs. Forever Alone also gasped. Is this a suicide mission? That's right. The bosses already know that we're the chosen ones. We're not afraid of death. The more we die, the better the reward. Tis TSK, a suicidal quest. I can send him to bankruptcy. Another pro player laughed. William waved his hand and brought them to the military warehouse to change their equipment. When he arrived, he crushed an illusion scroll in front of himself. In the next moment, the players who were changing their armor were dumbfounded. The handsome William had transformed into a middle-aged elder wearing a magic robe. Gosh, what's this? A player touched. His palm passed through the magic robe and touched the cold armor. He didn't touch what he wanted to touch. Forever Alone widened his eyes. Illusion. It's very realistic. My insight doesn't work. I've transformed into another person. Impressive. Remember, you'll meet up with the real patrol team. We'll leave the city together. Disguise yourself well. Don't expose yourself. William used the tone of a mercenary team leader to lecture them. The other players nodded. No one wanted to fail the mission. Time passed. William and his companions waited in the military warehouse for half an hour before exiting from the side door. They met up with the other 30 patrol team members. They formed a team of 61 and headed towards one of the military fortresses for inspection. The dilapidated Devil's Den was located not far from the military fortress and the important city. The Devil's Den, which used to have dark creatures, had slowly closed due to the instability of the teleportation portal. Now, there were no more dark creatures. It had become a temporary hiding spot for the execution team. In the dark cave, magic lamps were lit. Only 20 members of the execution team were resting or meditating to train their battle energy. The other 30 members were carrying out the mission of killing the leader. Beep. There's a mission. An epic warrior's eyes lit up when he heard the voice. The others also looked at the transmission scroll on Augustine's body. Augustine, who was meditating to train his battle energy, exhaled. He opened his eyes and picked up the scroll at his waist. A team of 60 members, and there's a middle-aged mage? Augustine raised his eyebrows. Mage, is this an inspection team? How can they send out an inspection team at this time? It seems like the internal environment of the Black Lava Dukedom isn't any better than ours. A Grandmaster Ranger pouted. Augustine glared at him. He stood up and picked up his Dragon Slayer blade. He said in a deep voice, "Let's set off now. The mage is the most important. As long as we can kill him, we don't have to care about the rest." Leader, even if they have 600 members, can they defeat us? Another epic assassin laughed. Augustine shook his head. Let's be cautious. I just received a message saying that the Lord of the City of Dawn has also gone to that important city. It's not a big mistake to be careful. What's there to be afraid of? No matter how powerful the Lord of the City of Dawn is, even if he's in the team, we can still kill him. Augustine raised his eyebrows, but did not say much. The message had stated that the team of 61 members was not considered strong. It seemed that there were many beginner professionals who were the chosen ones who loved to help others. He understood the strength of the execution team. However, he had experienced the setback of failing to slay a dragon. He swore that he would not fail again. Chapter 137. The patrol team advanced on the road. There were forests on both sides of the road. Besides William, the rest of the team walked, so they did not advance very quickly. Forever Alone followed beside William as his personal guard. He silently played the video. Since he was acting as bait, danger could befall him at any time. Hence, he had to record the moment of his death. He hoped that he would improve after watching it a few more times. Yes, he knew that he was here to die. He did not expect to achieve anything, but his death had to be worthwhile. Even if he could not improve after watching the video, it was good to watch William's true combat power. This could also show the difference in power between them. At least, he could confirm that he would have a chance to defeat William in the future. All the players were looking forward to the upcoming battle. The players from the City of Dawn continued to dig out hidden information. Many players were curious about how strong this half-elf was. Blackleaf Elfin Royalty? Was he chased away by the Elfin Royalty, or was he supported? The biggest beneficiary of the dragon-slaying battle was a true dragon slayer. He was the lord of the city who controlled 5 legions. He also had a large mercenary team. In addition, he had heard of 300 dragons' blood warriors, but had never seen them before. It's too mysterious. If it wasn't for the fact that the neutral lords have no backing and cannot invade the human nations, the balance of this war would have been tilted. Although the City of Dawn is small, there are too many bosses. Forever Alone sighed. After the Black Lava Nation players lost the attention of the local powers, they naturally looked for a way out. Within a short period of time, 10,000 players had sought refuge in the Iron Nation. Now, there were only 40,000 players in the Black Lava Nation. Although there were new players appearing, the symbol of freedom often filled the forum. It attracted many new players to choose the Iron Nation as their beginner's village. But who says that the final victor is the most powerful? This is clearly a magical system. The freedom of the small nations is fine, but it's ridiculous to start a war in the name of freedom. Forever Alone narrowed his eyes. He wanted to take a gamble. If he lost, he would just be lagging behind by 1 version. It was not a big deal. In particular, he valued the Glory Team leader, Chu Liuqiu. This old rival of his was very ruthless. In the previous virtual game, Chu Liuqiu had been able to choose the right faction every time and increase his strength. Since Chu Liuqiu had chosen the City of Dawn, it meant that William had better things. It was not just the benefits of the mercenary team. The key is still to look at the general trend. Forever Alone also understood that the Dawn mercenary team was the best. However, the main storyline mission was equally important. As long as he made the right choice and obtained enough faction affinity, he would be able to reap great benefits. William was resting with his eyes closed. The next second, he stepped on the stirrups and leaped into the air. Meanwhile, a streak of blue light cut through the air. The warhorse under his feet flew half a meter away as if it had been hit by a heavy hammer. A huge bloody hole appeared in its abdomen, and its internal organs were exposed in the air. A few unlucky players were also grazed to death by the arrows. The battle instantly began. There was no nonsense. A total of 20 members of the execution team charged out from both sides of the forest and used their strongest moves without mercy. It was just one round. More than half of the NPCs in the patrol team died before they could retaliate. Some players even became souls before they could figure out what was going on. Augustine saw the middle-aged magician jump up and seem to understand something, but he glanced at the other trash and rushed up. As soon as the dragon-slaying saber appeared, a long and narrow sword energy that was close to 10 meters suddenly arrived. William evaded it in midair, but the flaming sword energy brushed past his body. The heat was extremely strong, and his hair seemed to have been burnt. Boom! The warhorse was dismembered again, and a long and deep ravine appeared on the ground. William did not remain motionless in midair. He raised his hand and shot an arrow. A saint's soul appeared on his body and instantly traversed through space and arrived in front of the Grandmaster who was shot. He slashed his sword diagonally, and the Grandmaster's battle energy shield was instantly broken. The Grandmaster retreated 3 to 5 meters, and his armor was cut open. Fresh blood flowed out. William no longer concealed his identity. He crushed the magic scroll. He used his battle energy to increase his movement speed. He suddenly appeared in front of the Grandmaster. Ignoring the weapon that was aimed at his chest, he stabbed his short sword into the Grandmaster's head. Brain juice splattered backward, and the Grandmaster staggered to the ground. He could no longer breathe. Critical hit. A fatal hit. 9,445 points of damage. But at this moment, Augustine followed behind him. But Forever Alone, who had been revived 3 times, suddenly pounced forward and hugged Augustine's thigh. He refused to let go. Get lost. Augustine hated this group of undying chosen ones. He kicked Forever Alone's head and sent it flying. William pulled out the long sword from his chest. In a short period of time, he killed another epic assassin who was massacring the players. Swoosh! The assassin used swift steps and transformed into a phantom. He hid in the forest, and it was impossible to determine his location. William narrowed his eyes and raised his hand to shoot a ghost arrow. It traversed through space and through a tree trunk. There was a crisp sound. Palm! The epic assassin touched the back of his head in a daze. What a big hole! Then he slowly fell to the ground, and his eyes lost their color. Until his death, he didn't understand how the enemy knew which tree he was hiding behind. In particular, what was this thing that actually exploded in his head? Kill him first. Augustine glanced at the group of useless people. He wanted to torture them whenever he saw them. But the other members of the execution team wanted to say that these chosen ones were easy to kill. They killed with one slash and revived with another slash. They have learned how to camp corpses. They have improved a lot. The corners of William's mouth twitched. It was a pity that he did not have a chance to fight them alone. 3 level 50 epic experts immediately blocked him. They attacked with all their might and released their battle energy skills. Thunder slashed continuously. The battle energy in William's body surged, and rays of thunder, sword energy, slashed out. In an instant, 9 thin and long sword energies tore through space. Pom, pom, pom. The battle energies collided, and dazzling shockwaves spread in all directions. The intense pressure caused the ground to sink. Various colored battle energies stagnated in midair and did not dissipate for a long time. William did not retreat at all, but the 3 epic experts were forced to retreat 7 to 8 meters. They were extremely shocked. Level 60. That was right. William had relied on the instance dungeon crystal of the Misty Valley to successfully increase his level to 60. He was no longer a low-level boss in version 1.0. He was a legendary boss who was close to an advanced level. The players who were constantly reviving were a little dispirited. After dying so many times, some of them had lost their levels and equipment. But when they saw William's strength, they were filled with disbelief. Within a short period of time, they had already seen 1 legendary, 7 epic, and the rest were grandmasters. Our team leader killed an epic and grandmaster in such a short period of time. How terrifying is that? Forever Alone clenched his fists. He had made up his mind. As long as the Lord of the City of Dawn did not die, he would lick his boots. Chapter 138. Kill him. Augustine did not want to waste his breath on William. He had read many night novels. Regardless of whether it was the good or the bad, the people who were supposed to die did not die because of the excessive chatter. At that time, he would be very angry, but he would not make such a mistake. Besides the 2 people that William had killed, the execution team did not suffer any casualties. After receiving Augustine's order, the remaining 5 executioners blocked the players who wanted to get up. The rest of the executioners formed groups of 2 and surrounded William. Augustine was the first to make a move. His sword flashed. Flames rose to the sky. William blocked with both swords, and the ground beneath his feet cracked. A figure appeared behind him and stabbed his sword at his back. The assassin suddenly dodged, and the sword pierced his abdomen. Fresh blood splattered on the assassin's face. William did not care about his injuries, nor did he care about the assassin behind him. Instead, he kicked in front of him. Augustine used one hand to block his brother, fearing that he might be injured. He was kicked away by the immense force, and his body formed a trench that was several meters deep. Dust flew everywhere. William did not care about the attackers. His sword was very fast, and his thunder sword energy was dazzling. He forced Augustine to retreat. William's battle energy shield was broken again. At this moment, Augustine slashed his sword. An array of flames bloomed. William's entire body was covered by the sword energy, and he retreated tens of meters. His entire body was charred black, and the flames could not be extinguished. The execution team formed a line and arrived in an instant. Bang! The soul shockwave exploded, and more than a dozen figures were sent flying into the air. Their souls were faintly about to leave their bodies, but the damage was ultimately not enough. It could only send them flying and cause some negative buffs, but it was unable to cause too much damage. William's eyes were cold. He seized the opportunity to use the Hand of Soul and pulled back a Grandmaster. He did not care about the Grandmaster's struggling limbs. He stabbed his sword into the Grandmaster's neck, and blood splattered into the air. Augustine charged forward, and William pulled the Grandmaster and retreated. Sacrifice. The translucent soul was pulled out by William and absorbed into his body. His health points rapidly recovered. Slay the dragon. Augustine shouted angrily. The sword flashed, and a fire dragon rushed out from the sword. William threw the corpse towards the fire dragon sword. The fire dragon roared and opened its mouth, swallowing the corpse in one gulp. Without stopping, it arrived in front of him. Jean Long. William sneered and raised his head. He activated his battle energy shield, and both his swords shone with sword energy. Bang! The sky was filled with flames, and the fire dragon was cut down. Light blue lightning flashed within, and the shockwaves spread out in all directions. The trees on both sides were already on fire. A silhouette rushed out of the explosion and collided with Augustine. The two rolled on the ground, leaving a deep dent in the ground. They got up almost at the same time, but the sword landed on William's head. The battle aura shield shattered, and the Dawn helmet, which had a high defensive power, was split in half. William, with his long, charred hair, raised his head ferociously. Ignoring the deep cuts on his head, he swung his sword with a backhand. Dochi cut, light of dawn. The long and narrow sword Chi pierced through the epic warrior's neck. The epic-ranked warrior immediately covered his bleeding neck and retreated until he died. Bang! A shield bearer was eager to save William. A powerful shield hit William and sent him flying. Augustine glanced at the idiot. Just as he was about to rush over, 3 arrows flew towards him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Augustine tilted his head and barely dodged an arrow. He used his Dragon Slayer blade to block another arrow, but he could not block the last arrow. The arrow pierced straight into his glabella and exploded with a bang. Augustine's head was thrown back by the explosion. In the next second, he lowered his head and widened his eyes to stare in front of him. He clenched his fist at William's position. Flames soared into the sky. They were tens of meters tall, like a pillar of fire. Fire magic. William, who had yet to land, was hit by the pillar of fire and sent flying again. But this time, he could not shoot arrows in the air. The huge impact had caused his bow and arrow to fly out of his hands. The battle did not stop. A figure leaped high into the air, and a sword energy that was several meters long slashed at William's waist. Bang! William crashed heavily on the ground. It felt as though he could not get up anymore. But before the warrior could finish him off, a figure dashed out from the burning forest. He grabbed the warrior's head with one hand and smashed him to the ground. Boom! The ground cracked and caved in by several meters. Violent Dragon, who had finally arrived, flattened the warrior's head with one blow. Augustine's execution team finally started to worry. William was the bait, and he was the kind of bait that would put himself in danger. Retreat! Augustine sheathed his sword and was about to leave. Violent Dragon laughed coldly. You want to leave? Who gave you the chance? It was simple. Torrential rain fell from the sky. Many water mages were trying their best to extinguish the fire. At the same time, 500 powerful warriors, as well as some grandmaster and epic experts, charged out of the flames with their battle energy. They blocked the execution team. Charge with me. Augustine laughed coldly. He drew his sword and slashed. Flaming sword energy rose from the ground and shot forward, forming a line of fire. Besides the shield-bearer at the front, the rest of the warriors retreated. But the confident shield-bearer was knocked back tens of meters by the sword energy. His shield was split into two, and so was the shield-bearer. William, who had a chance to catch his breath, stood up and charged forward again. He wanted Augustine dead. The players who were guarding William's corpse were no longer revived. They looked at the battle in bewilderment. They could not help but glance at each other. It seemed as though they wanted to say something, but they could not say anything. Shouldn't we talk when fighting? For example, we can use some moves or exchange a few words after the fight. This is King. Is the city lord so ferocious? Is this ferocious? This is outrageous. He has so many archer skills and warrior skills. Is he a ranger or a warrior? Forever Alone was speechless when he heard the word ranger. He was also a ranger, but he could only cling onto the boss's leg and wait to be trampled to death. William was indeed a legendary boss who was close to reaching the advanced level. Even when facing one legendary, 7 epic, and many grandmaster bosses, he was able to hold on until the reinforcements arrived. He still had the strength to fight. Charge! Why are you playing the game if you're afraid of death? A player roared and charged forward to cling onto William's leg. With their current strength, they were unable to break through William's defense. Hence, they had to use all means to prevent those people from escaping. Forever Alone nodded and smiled. He shouted, "Charge for the team leader! Fight for the team leader!" 30 players charged into the battlefield. Their levels had dropped to level 10, and their equipment had been destroyed. But even if they died, they could not level down. They could not lose any more items. Wasn't the meaning of life to be like this legendary boss who did not care about his life and fight until the world was turned upside down? Anyway, there was no limit to the rewards. Chapter 139. Violent Dragon was very violent. Even though he only had an epic bloodline, he was not at a disadvantage when facing the epic experts of the execution team. He could even suppress them. This reflected the advantages of his profession. He had a legendary level Grandmaster of Combat's secret book. His subprofession, Pugilist, was a subprofession formed to support the Grandmaster of Combat. It specialized in strength and stamina. Coupled with a very abnormal talent, it was considered the top of the epic level. It was not even weaker than the trashy legendaries. William did not care about the others. He chased after Augustine relentlessly. If a legendary or epic expert wanted to escape, normal people could not stop him. If he was not surrounded by a large army, only an expert of the same level could stop him. A moment of carelessness would cause him to escape. Augustine's main occupation was a legendary flame dragon blade master. His secondary occupation was an epic flame dragon mage. He seemed to have fallen off a cliff and found an inheritance. Not only was he powerful, but he also had high luck points. As soon as he activated his battle chi shield, his entire body was like a cannonball, piercing through the army that surrounded him. He left a trail of fire along the way, and all the soldiers in front of him were knocked into the air one after another. He tore open a path and rushed out. Violent Dragon saw this scene and frowned helplessly. His legs were too short. Fortunately, he knew that William had the intention to kill. So, he looked at the Lord of the City of Dawn with ease. The players could not keep up with William's pace. They continued to hold on to the Grandmaster experts. They pounced on them and hugged their legs and heads. Some even bit them with their teeth. Some of the execution team members were entangled by the group of mermen. They felt as if they had eaten *T. Should they care about them? They could be resurrected after death. Should they ignore them? They blocked their vision. Occasionally, they pounced on William and wrapped their legs and arms around him. They were as annoying as the fairies in the brothels. Augustine ran very quickly. The flaming battle energy on his body did not dissipate. He crashed into some charred trees and broke them. He did not stop running. Undeniably, after he recognized William, he knew that it was a trap. But since the execution team could surround William, it meant that they had searched the surroundings. At least, they knew that the reinforcements were far away. Hence, he wanted to kill William in the shortest time possible. Augustine wanted to let this extremely confident idiot understand failure. He also wanted to let him understand that the price of failure was death. However, he did not expect the Lord of the City of Dawn to grow so quickly. He had seen William twice, and each time, William had changed so much that he was not confident that he could kill William. What a pity I was just a few seconds late. Augustine clenched his fists as he ran. He was extremely regretful that he did not use his injuries to exchange for William's. He had been too cautious. William's desperate look had made him fearful. His Royal Highness, whom he had been talking about, was in hot pursuit of him. He was closing in on him because his agility was higher and his movement speed was faster. 5 minutes later, the two of them had already entered the depths of the forest and even rushed into a cave hidden by vines. At this moment, both of them stopped at the same time. William looked at Augustine in astonishment. Then, he glanced at the dense green eyes. It was as if he was saying, "Buddy, you're quite good. You have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. Are you planning to ambush me?" Augustine was also a little confused. He ran a little anxiously, but he was sure that he didn't run in the wrong direction. According to logic, after passing through the cave, there should be a village in the valley ahead. It should be a paradise isolated from the rest of the world. When he and Gerdonaces were in trouble, they were saved by the people here. He knew that there were some messy tunnels here that could make William lose track of him. But this place has become a devil's den. Augustine did not dare to believe what he was seeing. The dark creatures gradually appeared and kept closing in on the two of them. William's lips twitched. He wanted to retreat, but Augustine clenched his fists tightly. His eyes flickered. Hence, he plunged into the group of dark creatures and released his flaming sword energy. At that moment, tens of dark creatures were slashed at the waist. Black blood splattered on the ground. The flaming sword energy illuminated his vision. It was also a valley. Why has this place become a devil's den? The tyrannical Augustine was like a maniac. His sword energy kept flashing. Whether it was the skeleton soldiers, dark knights, or devil hounds, none of them could withstand a single blow from him. William stopped in his tracks. He seemed to have thought of something subsequently. At the moment when the dark creatures retreated, some villagers with ferocious gazes and ordinary clothes walked out slowly. Their bodies were covered with black veins. Their veins were bulging, giving off a terrifying vibe. Augustine looked over in disbelief. He looked at these familiar strangers. He could call out each and every one of their names. "Andy, Peter, you, how did you become like this?" Augustine's eyes flashed. He could not believe that this isolated small mountain village was gone. "Why?" Augustine waved his sword again. Rumble. The sword energy slashed diagonally. The flaming sword energy tore through the ground. It brushed past the villagers and hit the other dark creatures. "I promised you that those who helped me would be covered in glory and wealth for the rest of your lives. At that time, you treated my words as a joke and ignored me. After I took control of the Iron Nation, Gerda also forgot about you, but I won't. I remember that after I trained my battle energy every day, you would send me meals. I remember that Andy and Peter dragged the two of us who were about to die and healed our wounds bit by bit. I remember I trained here for a year every day. That period of time was the happiest period of my life. What I promised, I will definitely do it. You have been corrupted by darkness. I will bring your corpses back and let you lie in the coffin with me. Augustine clenched his fists. He would do what he said. He walked forward and tore a piece of cloth to cover his eyes. He held the hilt of his sword and said in a deep voice, "My sword is very fast. It doesn't hurt." It didn't hurt. His words reverberated in the valley. It was a pity that no one in the valley answered him, just as he was getting closer and closer to her. The black veins on the villagers' bodies became bigger, and their veins became thicker. They opened their mouths and turned into ferocious ghouls that pounced on him. Is it the Despair Valley? When William saw this, he finally remembered. Augustine did not have the chance to enjoy glory. The first version of the war had just ended, and devil's dens had appeared all over the country. He had led teams to clear them all. He did not have the chance to welcome these people to enjoy glory with him. At that time, some players received a mission. They were to replace Augustine to welcome his benefactor. But when the players followed the route, they only saw a group of ghouls that had been corrupted by the devil. There were no living people. What used to be a paradise had long since become a land of death. William stood quietly. He did not choose to attack. He decided to let Augustine deal with the devil's den. But he would not leave. He would wait for Augustine to vent his anger before he personally beheaded him. Those with different principles could not work together. Chapter 140. Half an hour later, Augustine returned with blood. All the dark creatures in the valley were left with broken limbs. Only the corpses of the villagers remained intact. He slowly walked to the entrance of the valley and took a deep breath. He took off his blindfold and looked at William, who was still waiting for him. He raised his sword and pointed it forward. "Come, let me see how fast you've grown." William glanced at Augustine, who had not recovered his battle energy. He placed his right hand on the hilt of his sword and said in a low voice, "Now, why are you talking so much nonsense?" Augustine was like a blazing sun. He appeared in front of William in an instant. The heat was suffocating. William unsheathed his sword with his right hand. A long and narrow blue sword energy sliced the flames into two. The two figures collided. Bang! Two different colored shockwaves spread in all directions. The entire valley trembled. The vines and leaves were blown away by the shockwaves, and gravel fell continuously. In the next moment, sword flashes and sword shadows, lightning and flames. The two figures intertwined in the midst of the battle energy. Explosions rang continuously. William was unable to use any other means against Augustine. He could not even unsheath his short sword. Both of them fought. In a short period of time, they had exchanged tens of blows. Burn marks appeared on William's armor. Bang! Augustine punched out, but William dodged to the side. His fiery fist continued forward, creating a huge hole in the mountain. The tremors continued. In the next second, William returned the favor with a headbutt. The headbutt retreated tens of meters, while William followed closely behind and beheaded him with a slash of his sword. Crack! Augustine used his arm to block the attack. The blue sword radiance pierced through his bones, but he also slashed his sword diagonally. The fiery red battle energy was like a piece of white daylight. It pierced through William's shield like a piece of tofu. It even cut through William's armor. William's figure was thrown into the cave like a cannonball. There was no time to rest in this kind of battle. Augustine looked at William being smashed into the cave. He did not hesitate. His fiery sword energy slashed several times. He was determined to kill William in the cave. But when a figure appeared, 9 thunderous sword energies appeared in midair. The sword energies collided. Shockwaves surged, and the ground sank again and again. William were not afraid of the shockwaves. They charged into the shockwaves and waved their swords. Bang! Both of them took a step back. However, the mountain behind them suddenly exploded, and a deep crack appeared. Another slash. Augustine held his knife with both hands, while William held his sword with one hand. The moment the two weapons clashed, the latter was forced to kneel on the ground by the immense force. The knife cut a line of blood on his neck, but William's sword in his left hand had also pierced the former's stomach. The two of them separated again. Augustine's body suddenly burst into flames, and the wound that was pierced through instantly turned into paste. No more blood flowed out, but a trace of green had already appeared on the wound. Scram! Augustine roared in anger, and a flame giant suddenly appeared from his body, smashing his chest with a punch. William's body was instantly engulfed in flames, and his retreat was unstoppable. The moment he stopped, his feet rooted to the ground for a full meter. His body tilted to the left and right, as if he was about to fall. A stream of light flashed past where he was standing, and then exploded in front of Augustine like a clap of thunder. His Royal Highness threw out the poison dagger. He was the bow, and the dagger was the arrow. Even though he had lost his bow and arrow, he was still able to throw the dagger accurately and with the same destructive power. At the same time, when Augustine dodged the flying sword, William rose from the ground and slashed at Augustine with his sword. The sword energy rumbled and arrived. Augustine resisted the sword energy and clenched his fist in William's direction. Boom! A pillar of fire shot up from the ground. Both of them retreated dozens of meters. William's body was charred black, and his long hair became bald again. Augustine did not have it easy either. Lightning flashed, and he kept convulsing. He looked like a half-paralyzed Alzheimer's patient, but both of them still had energy to spare. Hence, the two of them slashed again. Crack! The epic level sword could not withstand such a strong impact, and it was completely split in half. The two halves brushed past the faces of both of them and stabbed into the mountain. Augustine's speed was even faster. Before he could react, he threw his knife and punched out. William quickly raised his arm to block his forehead. The next moment, his entire body was smashed into the mountain. He did not hit the wall with his back. Instead, he changed his posture while he was flying. Both his feet landed on the ground. After hitting the mountain, he quickly bent to reduce the impact. At the same time, he straightened his legs and shot towards Augustine at an even faster speed. Then, William was smashed by Augustine again. This time, his entire body was buried in the mountain. This valley was not very big, and the mountain was not very sturdy. As the two of them exchanged blows again and again, it felt like it was going to collapse. But both of them did not stop. Their weapons were smashed, and their armor. Their armor was smashed. Their bodies were also smashed. Both of them had legendary bloodlines. They were like two giant beasts that kept fighting in the valley, until William's health points had fallen below 10%. He used his inner armor to recover 60% of his health points. Augustine was still fighting with his health points low, until William smashed Augustine to the ground with a punch. He smashed Augustine's head again and again. Augustine was on the verge of death. His face was full of white bones. He could only use a pair of bloody eyes to look at William. He trembled and said, kill me, but don't let my corpse lie in the devil's denver." Then he turned his head with difficulty, but he could only see a patch of pitch-black soil. "And I know." William looked at him quietly. He did not say anything else. Augustine smiled. He slowly closed his eyes and did not resist anymore. His fist landed. Ding dong. "You have killed level 66 legendary boss Augustine alone. News of Augustine's death has been received by Gurdanaces. Iron Nation's affinity for you has decreased by 1,500 points. Your affinity for Iron Nation is minus 13,000 points. Gurdanaces has generated 15,000 hatred points. Your affinity for Gurdanaces is minus 21,000 points. You have obtained 345,660 experience points. You have obtained a random reward X1. Do you want to draw it now?" "No." After reading the word, William sat on the ground, exhausted. His bones felt like they were about to break. He did not want to move. He looked at Augustine's corpse and the valley that was about to collapse. He did not know what to think. Subsequently, he slowly stood up and kept Augustine's corpse in his space ring. Then, He sent a message to inform the others to drag the corpses of the villagers out of the valley. Gerdonaces clenched his fists. He and Augustine were connected by soul chains. Anyone who died would know and see the scene of Augustine's death. He was on the brink of exploding. However, he took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Inform the entire nation. Choose the most talented fire element youth and bring him to me." "Yes, my lord." A guard in the palace received the order and immediately carried it out. Gerdonaces was the chief cabinet minister of the current king. He was second only to the king and had the right to stay in the palace. He slowly raised his hand, and a deep blue bead was constantly blooming with magical power. There was also a thread that connected it to 100 miles away. It was a magic that was very similar to William's soul magic.